telling where we've been. And all I know is that if you can't find me, you may never want to find me again. Cause people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday night Barroom Podcast. We're almost at 30, but we're not yet. It's episode 29, and I'm back here with my lovely cast of regulars here once again, and all you guys here in the chat who are trickling in right now. So let's go ahead and introduce everyone to the show. You guys all know me as Society Reviews. Somewhere on this side, right over there, is Cool Classic Cage.
What up? What's good, everyone? Hope all is well. Is this the last Barroom?
No, actually next week is.
Damn, okay.
Yeah, so
gotcha.
Next week will be. So somewhere down over this way, over there is Rob. So I'm trying to, yeah, there we go. There's Rob over there. How you doing, Rob?
Pretty good. This might be my last Barroom podcast episode of the year, because I will be in Pennsylvania this time next week. So,
Yep. And then down there, somewhere near Whataburger, is Mr. Rick Aragon. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to finally be able to join you guys right from the get-go.
Yeah. And then this way is C.S. Johnson over there.
Hi, everyone.
And then down this way is Orange Hat. How you doing?
G'day, all you good motherfuckers.
Yeah, so we got a good little show here today. I just want to go ahead and just warn you guys now, if you hear a little slight buzzing in the background, it is the heater. I can't really do much about it. We're really just bitching about how cold it's going to get on our side of the country right now. We're pretty much anywhere between like the 20s and the teens for the next few days. So yeah, going 2.5 hours without a heat is just not going to happen. So just bear with me a little bit there. But until then, we got our guys in the chat here this week. We have Johnson, who was first this week, not Spencer, thank God. Neo's obviously in the chat with us here tonight. Somewhere from Germany.
I thought it was just me that dropped out.
Yeah, I think Rob might have dropped out. He'll be back in a second. Duke Nukem is all in the chat tonight. Cassie, we see Cassie here. Spencer being, exactly Spencer. We wouldn't expect anything else. Rob, there we go. And then, of course, we have another guest here who apparently has been sitting here for like 5 minutes, and I didn't even realize it. Thanks for not saying anything. It's our good buddy Nerdigans, who's also joining us here tonight. How's it going?
I'm tired. I've been recording and writing nonstop since I think 6 this morning.
Yeah. I went to queue in Rob back in. I just see you sitting there. It's like, oh, okay, Nerdigans is here too. So that's great. So I would have just went straight to the show and never would have acknowledged you. So, yeah, 29 episodes.
Ow.
Rich the Swag Lord, who's here with us down again.
What up, bro?
Oh yeah, we've been here for about an hour and maybe allegedly. So yeah, good for you guys to join us here tonight. Hopefully we have a good night tonight. We got a lot of things to cover.
Look at this guy as he tries to maul me.
Oh God. See, it's a curse. Nerdigan shows up and Cassie goes straight for a cat. It's like,
Well, mine's somewhere.
Okay, the reason why I had to get Ziggy is because I can't get a lion. It's not legal. Lions are my favorite animals ever. So.
Mm-hmm. Neil has a question here we'll bring up here in a second, but then Rob's also in the chat, and then Spencer, everyone else. So we got a lot to cover tonight. A lot of things happened this week. It's one of those weeks where it's like either everything happens at once or nothing goes on whatsoever. But we're going to start off here talking about a film that we kind of talked about last night. If you were listening to our Monday night movie review show, the stream is back up. It was temporarily taken down because Disney, out of Saudi Arabia, of all places, decided to claim a portion of our video, which we had to cut out in order to get it up. And it was a complete block, by the way. So I love it when you get a copyright claim from another country. That makes it even significantly harder to appeal than anything here in the United States. But we talked about Avatar 2, The Way of the Water, in great detail last night. We were kind of mixed on it. I think pretty much everyone outside of Orange Hat who really liked the movie was just kind of mid-tier on it. But this is a film that well, we said up to this point probably had about $2 billion baked into it, where it needs to like make $2 billion to make a profit. It has at the very least a $1 billion all-in price when you look at its production and its marketing. They put a lot of money into this, and it's not exactly making that money that they were expecting it to right now. So let me pull up Box Office Mojo here. This is as of tonight. As you can see here, Way of the Water, this is the second Avatar film. It's almost at $500 million after a week and a half here. Now, normally that would be amazing, right? $500 million in a week and a half. That usually means that the movie's a massive hit. However, like I said, you have to consider the cost that was baked into this. This film technically has only just made back its production budget, and even though they said the production budget was $460 million, I think it's probably $500 million. So we're still maybe a day away from it making that back its production budget. But here we have outside of $500 million after a few days. And this is not exactly the start that they were hoping. Projections going into this week is that the film was going to make $525 million on the weekend alone. And it still hasn't even hit that mark yet. And then you hear stories about how it's underperforming in Japan, how it's underperforming in China due to the restrictions. And this is a movie that you have to remember. The first Avatar movie, it made almost $3 billion. $2 billion of those dollars came from overseas. So this is an overseas movie. In order for it to make the money that they wanted to make, this has to absolutely kill overseas, and it's not exactly doing that right now. But everyone's saying, hold up, don't call this a bomb just yet, because we are heading into the Christmas weekend. And the expectation is, because the last Avatar movie came out around Christmas, that the first weekend was a big hit, and then the second weekend was just as big as a hit, because people didn't have anything else to do but go take their families to go see movies for the weekend. But as myself, Rob, and Rick has mentioned multiple weeks on our movie review show, that a lot of people just aren't going to the movies right now because there isn't anything for them to watch. So the idea that, hey, it's Christmas, it's going to be packed, I don't know if that applies this year as it would to other years. So let me go ahead and start off with the discussion here. I'll start with Rob, and then you guys can go ahead and chime in. This movie has a long ways to go before it can be considered a success, considering all the money that's been put into it. So, do you believe that Avatar is going to bomb? Do you believe it's going to be all right? Or what is your thoughts on the box office performance of this movie right now? I'll start with Rob.
Well, what makes this year different from other years is that usually there's a variety for audiences to go to. You know, there's usually 4 or 5 movies out right now. You know, some of them might be Oscar bait movies. That maybe have a little bit more appeal to families, and just year end movies anyway. But that's what surprises me about this year, is that there's so few movies. There's Babylon, which is not for the family. Then I guess Avatar 2, which is very family focused, and then the Puss in Boots movie. Like Whitney
Houston movie,
right? The Whitney Houston movie. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's that much of a choice for people to go. So if you do want to go out to the movies, like me and my mom, we're probably going to go see a movie, and it's like there's really nothing I want to see. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I think that Avatar 2, definitely has a shot at making $80 to $100 million this weekend, just because it's a very the volume of people is so great. But it's also, I felt it kind of did underwhelming business so far anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get that much. So I think ultimately it's going to do fine. It's going to make roughly $1 billion, if not more than that. It just depends on how economically feasible it'll be going forward.
Yeah, and I think was it you who mentioned last night, or I think it might have been you or Orange Hat who mentioned that apparently James Cameron with Avatar 3, which he still hasn't cut up yet. There's like a 9-hour cut of this film that's still out there at the moment. But he said that if it doesn't make its money back, that they're still going to release Avatar 3, but they'll release it with a definitive ending rather than leaving it open, hoping that people actually do go see this film. So I don't know, Rick, let me ask you, 13 years... do you feel like there's any real hype for Avatar 2? I love the way that Disney hoped that it would be.
No. And like I mentioned last night, the reason that the first Avatar started out well and then grew was word of mouth. It was a new experience. You got to see this fantastic looking film. Yeah. And it's a amazing world. You have to give him credit for that, and it was just visually splendid. But since we've seen the first Avatar, technology has advanced so much that that Pandora's not as amazing as it was the first time. I mean, there are some very beautiful moments in it, but nothing to the degree that the first one, because the first one was something that people had not seen or had not seen in a long time. So there's that. Second, you have you don't have I don't think you have a lot of enthusiasm for this one. It's not like people are really rushing. I also, this kind of a side note, I find it interesting that Disney in Saudi Arabia is going after you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have criticized the Qataris. I guess you shouldn't have made fun of them.
I cheered when they beat Argentina. I mean, why you gotta go after me for?
If anything, he defended them by being like, "Hey, don't take your fucking fucked up culture to another country."
Yeah,
so, that's what's so funny about it.
Yeah, but and then the third time, Rob's right. I mean, what is there to see? I mean, it would be interesting if Puss in Boots actually made a good run for it, because it's about the only thing that could really be quote family friendly. And if you want to see something during the Christmas weekend and you want to take your kids, I mean, you could take them to see Avatar, but at 3 hours, that's very punishing.
3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, 3 hours and 15 minutes. That's very punishing for kids. But Puss in Boots, which is a known product, yeah, that might be something that the family might want to they might want to go to. No,
maybe if that theater had seatbelts. So
well, I mean, it was like a theme park ride. And there's also one thing that we're not considering, or at least I don't think we are. Probably one of the reasons that Avatar is making the money now is because they charge extra for the 3D. And they charge extra for the IMAX and those, so that's going to increase their peak. But if this just played at a regular 2D screen with no upcharge for the 3D, would it be as successful? Would it have made as much money as it has now? I'm going to say probably not, so we have to factor that in. Once people got that 3D experience the first week, are they going to keep coming for the second? Are they going to keep coming for the third? Are new people going to be coming in to experience in 3D? I'm guessing that they're not. So no, it's not a bomb, it's not a flop yet, but it's probably not going to hit the expectations that Disney was aiming at, and it's going to be another disappointment for them this year.
Yeah, 3 hours, 15 minutes, and the cost of if you're going to see this in 3D, IMAX, if you have IMAX in the area. I mean, we have one 4DX theater, which is the one where the whole theater moves and have all the effects and stuff. That's a $30 ticket on a regular showing. So that's $30 to sit there for 3.5 hours and be a part of a theme park ride. So I don't know if you guys want to do that.
And that's just one ticket, right?
I mean, just one.
Imagine trying to take the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
$100. $100,
and that's not counting the concessions. That's right. A lot.
Yeah, if you, your wife, and your 3 kids try to go, that's $150 just on tickets alone. So, yeah. So let me go ahead and pitch it to the rest of you guys here, and you guys can chime in. Avatar 2, 3.5 hours plus 20 minutes of previews. Why do you think this movie is not performing the way that Disney expected it to? Did they buy into the hype of, well, the last one made almost $3 billion, so this one will surely make that?
I mean, it's like one of those things where it's kind of weird, because when you look at the first Avatar, it came out at the end of 2009, so it's kind of like post-recession. I don't want to necessarily say post-recession, because we were feeling that shit for years, but I mean, we're literally in the middle of a recession we're still free-falling, So,
mm-hmm.
Disney lives in ignorance, thinking that everything that they make is going to be successful, and when it doesn't, it's the people that didn't go see it are evil human beings. So they've been kind of on that train for a while, and maybe when Avatar, looking at this, it doesn't seem like Avatar is going to meet their expectations. It seems like it's going to do relatively well, but given how much money they may have put into it, who knows if relatively well is going to be good enough to fit the bottom line at the end of the day. But I think that maybe if Avatar does underperform to Disney's liking, maybe there's a chance they'll wake the F up. I don't know. Like, I feel like if their big ass film that they're expecting, because it's like at this point, look, I think Avatar is a crock of shit, if I'm completely honest. But if Avatar, this giant, extravagant blue people movie that's supposed to be the most beautiful, wonderful theme park ride of a film, can't bring in the money that's expected of it, I mean, to me, it's like, at that point, you're at the end of your rope, I think, you know? I don't think it's going to make $3 billion. I think that's insane to really, just the fact that they put themselves in a situation that any film has to make $3 billion in order to be a success is a failure on Disney's part. They're
stuck in that It's a Small World castle, Cassie. That's where they're stuck in.
Yeah, I think they set the bar way too high with this one, and I think that maybe if Avatar does fail, Disney will probably have to rethink their plan, because so far it's been a lot of these smaller things that have flopped. But if Avatar flops, they're gonna have to see the writing on the wall, and if they don't, well, I mean, hey, I guess Disney's just gonna fall like the previous companies have.
I mean, just real quick, there's been like obviously movies this year that Disney have had to take hits on. Like, was it Black Panther is probably going to end up losing a couple $100 million for them with the money that they put into that one. Thor: Love and Thunder underperformed. It didn't make much money for them. Lightyear was a bomb. Strange World was a bomb. Like, those are movies that they took hits on, but for this movie, the bomb, considering all the money that they put into this one, like, this one's going to hurt far more than all of those other ones.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick that they used to be able to, I mean, movies used to run a long time, and I mean like a year, sometimes 2 years, and they that's how they racked up the money. Like Gone with the Wind, it played like for years, racking up money, and that's like, and Top Gun Maverick, that was almost legendary because it was in there from what, March or April, or was it Memorial Day? But it went almost all year. I think it just left theaters. In fact, it might still be playing at like drive-ins and stuff. But does anybody expect Avatar 2 to still be playing this time next year? No.
I mean, they're only going to be playing the next few weeks because all the other studios were so afraid of this movie. They didn't put anything out that was going to compete with it. So that's why it's going to stay around for a while. But the question is anyone going to want to go see it? Because if Avatar's taking like 70% of all the theater houses and no one's going to go watch it, theaters are going to get pretty upset after a while. So,
well, there's another thing that people need to take into account. Remember that Disney has been doing a lot of things that have been pissing off people. Yes. They have been embracing things that are incredibly inappropriate, and people are waking up to that. Woke ideology is also been affecting, or rather, infecting entertainment for the last few years. People are sick and tired of that. So it's basically to the point when I've talked to my dad, who a lot of his friends also used to go out to the theaters and stuff. They don't do it anymore because of all this stuff. They want to be entertained. They don't want to be preached at. And a lot of people were like, in this day and age when woke is in, do we really want to see if Avatar is infested with that? There's a lot of people that didn't want to take that chance. Also, it's under Disney. Disney has some very sordid and disturbing practices. And with that being taken into account, maybe that's why this movie is not doing as well as it could have been doing, because of its association with Disney. Now, true, the studio didn't have anything or any sort of interference with this movie, but it's still it's guilt by association, essentially.
Yep. I mean, especially this year alone, like the whole war with Ron DeSantis over a bill that really didn't affect them in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Like, they went scorched earth over this whole parental rights bill that only affected the state of Florida so that parents can have say in their kids' education. And they absolutely flipped their shit. They doubled down, tripled down. They pretty much exposed all the agendas that was going on with the executives and the films and all that. Like, everyone says that, oh, Bob Chapek made a mistake by not making a statement sooner. Like, if you guys said nothing, like just absolutely said nothing, you would not be going through the pains that you're going through right now. But they'll never admit that that had anything to do with it, you know?
Yeah,
We'll
they
never
lost a
admit
very
that they're
sweet
wrong.
deal.
Yep.
Yeah, they lost a very sweet deal because they basically owned that part of Florida. I mean,
Yes.
it was their own fiefdom, and
They
they
have their own
needless-
police.
yes, and they needlessly got into a fight that didn't involve them, only to placate a small group. And obviously, they thought they were going to be feted and celebrated and hailed as allies and heroes. DeSantis and the legislature said, you know what, we're not going to do it. So we have the power. We're going to pull it from you. And they lost something that they had for close to 50 years over something that was just meaningless.
Yeah.
And they got them nothing.
And they're in a position where people are not going to forget what they did like this year. Like, even they try to come out with like some kind of social media campaign where it's like, oh, we're sorry, we're going to go back to our roots. Like, no one's going to fucking believe you anymore. Like, unless you completely clean house with everyone who you have in your ranks right now, which good fucking luck because you have too many of them now at this point anyway. Like, you're not going to be able to save this ship. Like, it's going to go down in flames before you ever try to steer this back into the right direction again. So, any last thoughts on Avatar's box office performance? Can we move on to our next story?
I don't think that they'll bomb at the box office, but I know that movies in general are just down. There's like an oversaturated market for it. I know that's like, duh, but you know, most of the movies, like I don't like taking my kids to movies, and no, I mean I know a lot of my kids' friends are going to the movies from time to time and stuff, but it's still like it's $100 a visit, and it is getting towards the holidays and Christmas presents and stuff. I mean, like, I think that it'll be saved by a lot of the people that are meeting with families and they don't want to actually like talk or anything. But I don't think it'll bomb, but I don't think it'll do very well either. My estimates on it are probably like $1.6 billion. It's gonna wear its top out. You know?
Yeah. And then the question is like, have they spent so much on this movie? Let's say it does make 1.6. At that point, do they even still make money off of this film? Even at that price point, have they sunk too much money into it?
Well, part of the cost is coming from the fact that they made 2 and 3 together, and I mean they're already starting to work on 4. So,
yeah,
you know, it's not. I don't think. I think this is one of those things where it's like, it's kind of almost like an outdated practice where it's like, well, you better go or you won't get the next one, and it's almost like this guilt shame kind of way to get you to go and spend money. And I don't know. I've wondered for sometimes, probably since Captain Marvel, really, like how many tickets how many tickets are being bought by big companies to inflate the numbers, and there's a lot you can do. Like I read this like from a book perspective, like you only need to sell like 10,000 books at certain bookstores to be considered a bestseller. And there's ways to manipulate that. And if you know the ways to manipulate that, you've got it made in the shade, you know, because that gets the big numbers, that gets you the attention, and sometimes it's just not warranted. And the idea that, like, even if you write a super great book, like all of mine are, by the way, you know, you doesn't mean that you're going to be rolling in it. You know, I'm just stepping in it, really. So.
Yeah.
But
go ahead, Rick.
Well, no, I was just wondering. I mean, you not only have the ticket sales, you have a lot of merchandising that went into this. Like, I'm sure you had the toys and the action figures, and I don't know what else they came up with. They're not going to shift that. It brings back to when they had all those Rose Tico figures, and nobody bought them. So because they weren't interested. Same thing here. Are they going to be selling them at the Animal Kingdom after they get off the Avatar ride, which is what it is, and I'm looking forward to going to see it. But is there enough interest? I mean, just think about it. If there's barely enough interest to get a 2 and a 3, think about what Cameron's plans were to get up to Avatar 6. He's not going to get that if this movie fails or does not meet expectations, and he's forced to say, okay, the third one is the conclusion. Because remember, his plan was to have what, 6 or 7. The third one, like a 9-hour epic thing here. There's not enough interest.
Well, Nerdigans actually pointed out earlier, or maybe it was Kathy, that he's talking about a Skynet reboot again or something.
Yeah, that's what we need.
People have talked about that, and they've talked about the Alita Battle Angel sequel and stuff. And I have a feeling if he doesn't get Avatar 4 greenlit right away or whatever, they'll probably be oh, well, we've decided to conclude the Avatar series here, so he can work on this other thing that a lot more people seem to want. And it's kind of like a gracious excuse at the end of the day. So, I mean, let's put it they'll never admit that it failed. They'll find a way to write off a lot of their taxes. They'll find a way to inflate their numbers. They'll find a way to skew the system. And that's my most cynical take ever.
Well, James Cameron didn't get a single note on Avatar 4, though, so it's going to be perfect.
But the other thing, though, is this is the worst time for him to try and make a Battle Alita Angel 2 because it will be woke. Especially in the main, you can't, if you have read oh my god, I can't fucking talk right now.
Alita Battle Angel.
If you have read Alita Battle Angel before, that is the most non-PC series you could ever read. It is the most disturbing trilogy. The third one is ongoing right now. It is the most disturbing series you will ever read in your life. If you were going to try and make
Berserker fans,
good luck.
Look, I'm going to be in the minority here on Alita Battle Angel. I personally didn't think it was that good of a movie. I really don't. I think that was around the time that people were still kind of trying to get over The Last Jedi, Captain Marvel hump, that people try to prop that one up as a better movie than it was. For me, it was just,
Yeah, I don't think it was good either, to be honest, because what I saw was a vanilla version of the manga that I read after reading it and then watching the movie.
Yeah, never saw
How dare you?
Never saw
If you haven't read the manga, that movie was not it at all. It was a vanilla version of it.
Yeah. I think that what makes Alita Battle Angel something that people point to constantly, even I point to, is this is how women should be portrayed in films when you want to do female empowerment. Not this bullshit Terminator Dark Fate that nobody fucking wants to see, you dumb motherfuckers. No. I feel that is, at the time, that was the perfect example movie of a female that is the main protagonist portrayed in a good light that makes her look like a true badass instead of the fake bullshit.
Yeah, and then you had it contrasted with Captain Marvel, who, if you made her a guy in that movie, it would not change anything.
You can say that about a lot of movies, but yeah.
Well, and that's my point is why do people care about female stars if they're just going to treat them like man with boobs all the time? And they make it so watered down and generic anymore because they don't want to upset the PC crowd. But it's if you're actually going to care about women, you need to make it women centric. And you know what? It's very hard to do that because women are just harder to relate to. So, yep. I'll stand by my ultra right wing based opinion on that.
I would just take issue with the idea that the Cameron not getting any notes on Avatar 4 meant, or he thinks that it's perfect.
Rick and Rob.
I actually no. I'm not disagreeing. But I'm thinking. To me, it doesn't say, "Oh, the studio thinks that your film is perfect." It's saying, "No, we think that you're just going to do whatever you want. So why bother even telling you what it was wrong with it? You think on your own, but you're going to take our money with you." I never saw that as an endorsement of his brilliance. I saw that as a capitulation to his arrogance. But that's just my view about why you don't get any notes. Because you're thinking, having seen the second one and reading maybe the third one, if you think there's going to be a fourth one, well, good luck to you, and God bless.
Well, look, when I heard the whole thing about, oh, they didn't give me any notes, I think back to when Cameron was talking about how, oh, all these studios try to tell me how to shorten my movie, but they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. So when I hear that, what I heard in my mind is that, okay, the studio tried to give you notes, and you basically told them to go fuck yourselves. So then they gave you more notes on the next movie, then you told them to go fuck yourselves again. So then when you get to the was it Avatar 4, they're like, oh, wow, this is the most holy shit thing I've ever seen here. It's like, no more notes, because they're already like, yeah, we can't tell this guy anything anyway, so what's even the point of giving him any notes at this point? That's kind of how the way that I took it, reading it in between the lines of Hollywood and stuff like that. So, but we are going to move on to our next topic here. Our next topic is one that broke right after we did the show last week, and it's been kind of building ever since. But Henry Cavill and now Dwayne Johnson have both been officially removed from the DCEU. Their projects are done. It was last Wednesday while we were on the Black Pill stream that this whole thing started. I'll go ahead and pull this up here. Henry Cavill was the first one to make this announcement. He posted this on his Instagram page, and he says, I had just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October, prior to their hire, this news isn't the easiest, but that's life. The changing of the guard is something that happens. I respect that. Peter and James have a universe to build. I wish them all involved with the new universe the best of luck and the happiest of fortunes. Says, for those who have been on my side throughout the years, we can mourn for a bit, but then remember, Superman is still around. Everything he stands for still exists, and the examples he sets for us are still there. My turn to wear the cape has passed, but what Superman stands for never will. It's been a fun ride with you guys, upwards and onwards. So this is what he wrote on last Wednesday night. Now, obviously, with this fallout of Henry Cavill being out as Superman, Dwayne Johnson was not very happy about this news, and there's been reports over the last few weeks that he's been very unhappy with the direction of the DC universe now that James Gunn is in charge, because the whole point of doing the Black Adam movie is that he wanted to do a Black Adam versus Superman movie with Henry Cavill. Well, Cavill's not here anymore, so if we don't have Superman, why do we need Black Adam? The question is that we don't. So earlier today, he posted this message on his Twitter page that says, my passionate fans, I wanted to give you a long-awaited Black Adam update regarding the character's future in the new DC universe. James Gunn and I connected, and Black Adam will not be a part of their first chapter of storytelling. However, Peter and Seven Bucks have agreed to continue exploring the most valuable ways Black Adam can be utilized in DC's multiverse chapters. So I guess they're planning a multiverse as well. Yay, I guess. James and I have known each other for years and have always rooted each other to succeed. It's no different now. I will always root for DC and Marvel and win big. You guys know me. I have very thick skin, and you can always count on me to be direct with my words. And he also followed that up with said, these decisions made by James and DC leadership represent the vision of the DCU throughout their creative lens. After 15 years of relentless hard work to finally make Black Adam, I'm very proud of the film that we deliver for fans worldwide. I will always look at the fans' reaction to Black Adam with tremendous gratitude and love. We did great. To my passionate and vocal Black Adam superhero genre fans, thank you. I will always listen to you and do the best to deliver and entertain you. It's been a hell of a month. Now we need some Tarmana, which is his liquor company, and have a productive week. So that was both of their statements. Now, a lot of people have been very angry with James Gunn over this news. I think we all knew that there was going to be some sort of reboot coming. That part isn't a surprise, but the fact that Henry Cavill is no longer not going to be Superman upset a lot of people, especially now that they announced that right after that, James Gunn is now going to be doing his own young Superman movie that he's writing and directing. So that's something that's coming up in the next few years. And then the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Superman movie that no one wants is also still in development as well. So you got rid of Henry Cavill. You still have a whole bunch of other problematic people around here like Ezra Miller and Amber Heard, which I'm sure they're going to eventually get rid of, but their projects are still coming out regardless. There's now talks about Gal Gadot being out. There's talks that they're going to just pretty much recast everything and start from fresh altogether. The Rock has obviously tried to use the DCEU to try to angle his own superhero movie. That's obviously failed now. So people have been upset with James Gunn. James Gunn has kind of like leveled it at, well, it's a few unsatisfactory fans that are out here causing all the ruckus. And this is where I kind of feel about James Gunn. I don't like him personally. I don't even think his movies are particularly that great either. But let's not forget exactly who James Gunn is. James Gunn is still the same guy that he was 5 years ago when he was being very vocal and getting himself into trouble. The only thing is that he's not as vocal as he was before, but that same guy is still there. If you think that a leopard changes his stripes at his 50s, it's definitely not going to happen this time around. So let me shoot this out to you guys. Cassie, I'll start with you. What do you think about the new DCEU future without The Rock, without Henry Cavill, and basically just saying we're going to blow this whole thing up?
Yeah, I think at this point, people have to do an autopsy on why the DC universe failed. And for me personally, when I look at the landscape of the universe that they created specifically, it came to the point where the controversy behind the camera became more entertaining than the actual DC universe itself. Nobody really was tuning in to watch these movies anymore. The whole Zack Snyder debacle was really the thing that people wanted to know about and why. And the reason why I do say that specifically is because films that aren't involved in that universe, like the Batman, like the Joker, are relatively got people's interest. The Joker did amazing at the box office. It was a pretty decent film. It was well done. And the Batman, I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I think that the third act is like, why is there an extra 30 minutes tagged onto the movie?
Yeah.
But I mean, it is well received and people liked it. And, but when it comes to like the DC universe, people don't really fuck with it like that. I mean, Black Adam lost money. A lot of these films don't really. It's like they wanted to like rush to compete with Marvel, and then they slowed things down after that. It's just like, you guys have no idea how to pace this universe. So I think it was best for them to essentially, reboot or just stop. Personally, I think they should just stop with this whole universe crap. If you have to, make your superhero movies, which obviously they have to, just do one-offs, because that's what is successful to them. Because it's like, who wants a whole other like comic book universe like Marvel, where you have a bunch of fucking filler movies and then one movie that's really important, that is actually important? I think that's an absolute. It's certainly a waste of my time. I mean, you have these cock gobblers that'll fucking eat it up, but it's honestly just stupid. It's. I don't think that Disney and Warner Brothers can both do it and be successful at the same time. Marvel is eating up as much time in the movie theaters to essentially take money away from all the other major corporations that compete for the movie theater and people's time. So I'm not surprised. I think a change had to be made. But what I do think that James Gunn is stupid for not doing is not making a one-off Superman film with Henry Cavill. This situation with letting him specifically go just proves that they haven't really changed much at DC. They, the old guard knew what the fans want. They wanted Henry Cavill as Superman. The new guard knows what the fans want. Henry Cavill as Superman. And neither of them fucking listen. So it's just like, you guys deserve this fallout. You guys are fucking stupid. If it was Marvel that was behind this, I can understand why they would let him go, because they don't really do one-offs. Everything's loosely tied to this universe, but it's still tied to the universe. Whereas DC, they've done plenty of movies. Matter of fact, their one-off movies that aren't connected to this universe seem to do better. So why don't you just do it with the dude that the fans clearly want? They're just being dick faces. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, and then another thing too is like I know people thinking when this whole thing started that James Gunn was going to be the guy that turns DC around. From a lot of people on our side of the aisle too, it's like you do remember that this is the same guy who called you a Nazi like 5 years ago, right? Like you do realize that James Gunn has really changed. And then let's be honest, if he wasn't a big uber lefty like he was on the last few years ago, when he got quote unquote canceled or temporarily removed from the spotlight, like they wouldn't have fought to bring that guy back the way that they did if that hadn't have happened. So, yeah. Anyone else got thoughts on the future of Warner Brothers? Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I do too. I'm just pissed off. I did not get my Man of Steel too. That was the only thing I wanted. I didn't give a shit about the rest of them. They could have just fired them all. I did not like Aquabro. Well, Wonder Woman they should have kept too. The rest of them, I just don't give a fuck. Just give me my Man of Steel too. I have been waiting like for what, like almost a decade now, or over a decade. Like, come on, why did you do this? The only thing that I can say that I can maybe see James Gunn doing, or he could have just done in the first place, is say, look, I'm going to do my young Superman film and then bring Cavill back and do a prime Superman film for my universe. If he would have just said that, okay, I would be fine with that. But no, he's not doing that, and that really frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's the idea that no, we're gonna find some other 20-year-old kid who doesn't look like a superhero to be our Superman for the next 20 years. That's how we're gonna build this thing. It's like good fucking luck with that.
I think that's the big reason that they decided to do like a hard reboot without Henry Cavill. I mean, he's been in a lot of good movies. He's generally well liked among the fan community. I still think this is somewhat of a punishment for the toxic fans aren't really toxic. They're just passionate quote.
Yeah.
And I know that he's, I guess he's supposed to be like a really nerdy gamer in real life. Maybe he's on your channel, Kathy, right? So I think they're thinking like long term, yeah, let's get some newbie kid like they did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Let's get some newbie kid to be young Clark Kent, and we'll have 20 years out of him as long as we can, I don't know, keep him from getting arrested, maybe. So.
Yeah.
I wonder who you're referring to there.
And then that's the other thing. And that's the other thing too. I want to get Orange Hat's thoughts on this. Is that now with them confirming to have blown everything up, you have 3 DC movies coming out next year. You have Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, and The Flash. None of those movies mean anything now because we already pretty much told you guys, like, here's these movies. They're not going to mean anything because we're blowing this whole thing up again in a few years anyway. So what's even the incentive of releasing these movies, trying to get any kind of return out of them when you basically telling people right off the bat this doesn't mean anything anymore? Like, we're done with this section of the DC universe.
Basically, my thoughts before I touch on those, I do want to touch on the James Gunn thing. I gave my thoughts on James Gunn. I think that the man is vile. He may be a talented writer and director, but this man made some seriously disgusting jokes. And also, allegedly, I will say allegedly because it's not proven yet, he was under a lawsuit that Bounding reported on that he was running a very disgusting themed party at his house.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
the Catch a Predator party.
Yeah, that's two red flags there. The third red flag is that he's going toward a more child-oriented Superman story. What the actual F? How is Hollywood or those idiots in charge at Warner Brothers and DC not picking up on this unless
they're all in on it?
Exactly. Now, as for Henry Cavill, he got shafted. He explained it perfectly in his statement. I was brought back only to basically be saying that my services are no longer needed. That kind of is very rude. I mean, yeah. Warner Brothers, you screwed up. You don't realize that Henry Cavill is currently a draw for people. They want to see him on the screen. And as for the next 3 movies in 2023, if they ever get released at all, I will absolutely not watch Aquaman 2. They confirmed that Mira, Amber Turd, has a confirmed role and needed role in the film. If you cut her out completely, the film won't make sense. Well, it's like, well, I don't think you guys fully understand. People are capable of remembering more than just a few minutes. They can remember years. We're human after all. So expect a huge boycott for Aquaman 2. People aren't going to watch it if Amber Heard takes or is in that film. And Ezra Miller has made himself a cancerous tumor for them as well. People aren't going to watch The Flash. That movie has been delayed for years. They don't care anymore. As for Shazam 2, okay, you got a new improved suit. You have you recast one of the actresses, and that's about all that I know about it, other than a couple of actresses that are going to be, I'm guessing, the antagonists. Other than that, nobody gives a shit. The first one was pretty decent. I will give them that. But honestly, it wasn't that good in my opinion. There's just, DC is, as Cassie said, they deserve everything they get, and honestly, I hope they go down faster than the Titanic or faster than the Thai hooker.
or faster than that ship in Avatar 2, because that also.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Black Panther, but yeah, that's true.
Virus.
Yeah. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Mhm.
Well, I'm one of the few people apparently who does not think that Henry Cavill is his generation's Clark Gable. One of the greatest Superman ever in the history of all humankind, because he can't act. I'm still stubborn on that concept. He can't act. So it's
neither can most movie stars. They don't need to.
Well,
Right,
no,
right,
for some reason, Cavill seems to be like the gold standard of cinema right now, and I don't get why.
No, he's the gold visual standard of men. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Well, I'll grant that he's a beautiful looking man. Yes, when he stands there and poses, does nothing, says nothing, he's perfect. Once he starts
above
speaking,
6 foot, and he looks like a superhero.
Okay,
And he has a British accent.
He looks.
I was gonna
fine.
say yes. He has a British accent, so he could be reading a
'Cause he's
phone
British.
book, and he would sound 10 IQ points smarter than he actually is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
The dude has chiseled features of a Greek statue.
We've all talked about how beautiful he is, which even I will concede, but none of us have said he is this great actor. He's not. He can't act. He cannot act. He's just there to look at. Fine. So I'm not mourning this great loss of.
I have a question.
We don't have him. I'm still speaking here.
When you're done, sir.
We'll take questions at the end of my presentation.
Okay.
So I'm not at a loss. However, having said that, he was treated poorly. He did get. I agree with Orange Hat. He got shafted. He came in with the best of intentions, and I don't know if he gave up The Witcher so that he could devote time to work on the various Superman films. He was brought in for the Black Adam cameo, and I think with the understanding that he was going to be the Superman in future films, and they dumped him. I think that was wrong. I think that he was treated poorly, and even someone without any actual acting talent, he deserved to be treated better, because right or wrong, this is his career. This is his chosen profession. He has had success in it. He deserves to be treated better. I also think that the DC, the DC has no real plan. They were just throwing everything. They're trying to have a shared universe, and then they were going to have standalone movies. I think, for example, the first Wonder Woman actually was much better, not being, because I didn't really consider it part of the great expanded universe or extended universe.
Okay,
and
feminist.
the same with with Shazam. I enjoyed Shazam. I didn't think it was part of the extended universe. I think they were. I don't know if they were trying to copy Marvel. Whatever the flaws of Marvel, at least up to Endgame, it looked like they had a definite plan, and like all these films would somehow connect one to the other. Now we don't see that. Now they just kind of seem to be a hodgepodge of this, that, and the other. And because I think they're trying to tie in the television series as well. For a lot of people, Endgame was literal the end game, and there was nothing left to say.
It was the end game until we had 7 more Disney Plus series to come out with after the fact.
Exactly. With DC, it just seemed to be we'll put one here, we'll put one there, we'll throw them together, we'll split them apart. I don't know if there was a plan, so they just kind of threw everyone in and sometimes put them out. You introduce characters that you didn't know or care about. I mean, when I saw Black Adam, I'm like, who's Cyclone or who's Atom Smasher? All of these people, I have no idea. They were just thrown in there, and I'm assuming that they were going to be part of future films. So that would just be kind of my view. Only in that, A, he can't act, but he's beautiful. But B, he was treated very poorly, and the fact that he's not on, ranting and raging and breaking things is a credit to him. I will concede that, but he still can't act. All right, Cassie, feel free to ask.
Hold on. Let me hit you guys all with this whole point, because there's a reason why I just played that video here. I think it's still playing here. This is Henry Cavill, by the way, cooking his brisket for International Men's Day. And if you notice that in the last few weeks, both Henry Cavill and The Rock have received a lot of negative press from a lot of these, let's just say, access outlets for 2 very different reasons. One, I think a lot of people have been trying to come out against Henry Cavill over the last couple of weeks, saying that he's some kind of like secret misogynist and he may support Gamergate and things of that nature, which is this is complete nonsense to me. But clearly there's a certain subsect of that Hollywood bubble who doesn't like him for that reason, because he may just actually be an upstanding guy in real life. Then you have the flip side, which is The Rock. And Neo asked this question earlier because they were saying that, The Rock used Henry Cavill to get a spot in the DC. First of all, probably. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But another thing that I've noticed with the Rock situation is that there's been a lot of people who I guess are not happy with the fact that Rock tried to take a little bit more power in the DCEU away from, let's just say, the current leadership. I've noticed there's a lot of people that have been attacking him fairly recently regarding that as well. I think Rock had to come out recently and say that he didn't unfollow Black Adam and Warner Brothers on Instagram. There's been a lot of people saying, well, no, he did, and then people say no, that he didn't. I don't know the whole back and forth between there, but it seems like up to the point where they were making their official announcements that, hey, that they're done, there was a lot of squawking behind the scenes in the insider world about trying to bury Rock and Cavill as much as they can, as if somehow by burying them, the news that they're done with the DCEU wasn't going to make people as upset as it was. And guess what happened? Fire James Gunn still trended anyway. So I'll let Cassie finish her point, but yeah, what do you guys kind of think of that whole thing of the smear campaign behind Cavill and Johnson with this whole situation?
Yeah, it's really just strange in general that Cavill always gets all this hate, and it's like, we know why, because they know the industry wants to have all the control, but they know they can't control people's appreciation of Henry Cavill, just hearing them out and wanting the films that he does make to actually be pretty decent. So it's not a surprise to me that they're attacking Henry Cavill, because they've been doing it for years now. The fact that he also dated Gina Carano, when they went at him for that when she was having the fallout with Hollywood, I guess, and all that. And The Rock, it's one of those things where I don't personally like The Rock very much because, well, he's a milquetoast fucking dork. So when he said in his thing, you guys know I always speak my mind, and I'm like, you are a fucking cock gobbler, you bitch. Like, shut the fuck up with that shit. Like, honestly, you don't. You just say, the most milquetoast thing that gets you over with the media and all that shit. But it is, to me, I think this, in regards to what's more interesting. It's interesting to see like this criticism that The Rock's been getting. I wonder what he really had in mind in the long term with him playing Black Adam, and what kind of like what hopes he was trying to what he was hoping to get in the grand scheme of things in regards to working with Warner Brothers. Did he want to like, you know, have a lot more control over what's going on? Did he want to direct a movie? I don't know what goes into that. That's more interesting to me. The media and all these people in the industry hating on Henry Cavill is just another day in the life.
I mean, I go all the way back to this movie called The Count of Monte Cristo, which came out in 2002 with Henry Cavill. He played like the son, basically the Count's son. It's revealed at the end of the movie, but he was like 18. You know, he's basically like a young man, and so like I've known about him for a while. I've always liked him. I actually disagree with Rick. I think he's a better actor than you give him credit for. You know, whether he's the best Superman, I don't know. I liked him in that role. I thought he fit it really well. And look, if there's any truth to this, that Warner Brothers is trying to throw them under a bus to sort of like distract fans or make them look bad, it's just like that's disappointing to me, because historically I love Warner Brothers. I love their movies. I love the product they've put out. I certainly love Batman as a character. I love, like, as an idea, the Justice League. So I want it to be good. I want them to produce good movies, but I'm also so cynical with the comic book movie at this point that I'm just like, look, they're probably still trying to replicate what Marvel was able to do over the last, what's it been, 15 years, almost 20 years. So, but yeah, I don't necessarily see it working, or it's a bit, a bit empty as an idea. So, it sucks for Henry Cavill, because you can tell that he cared. He had a real relationship to this character, but I just think at the end of the day, they once they hired James Gunn, they were ready to move on.
Well, I'll give a rewatch to the early seasons of The Tudors, since Henry Cavill was also in that. But I've never seen a performance where I thought he was actually good. Certainly not a Superman, and not a Sherlock Holmes. And I never saw the Mission Impossible movie. I refuse to. So I don't know if he can act. But again, since he's British, I expect him to play Professor Henry Higgins in a revival of My Fair Lady, and then maybe he'll astound me, and I will publicly recant everything about his performance.
I just saw My Fair Lady for the first time with my parents last Christmas, and it's actually pretty good. I hate musicals, but I can't really deny it. I was like, oh, it's She's All That. Hey guys, look, it's She's All That. And then it's like, oh yeah. And then My Fair Lady is a remake of a movie called Pygmalion, which came out in the 30s. So
which is actually from a book called Pygmalion, and in the book she actually marries Freddie, not the professor. So,
well, also Stewie Griffin is based off Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady.
He did leave it ambiguous whether or not Professor Higgins and Eliza actually get together. But I will say that yes, Henry Cavill was treated poorly, and he deserved better. And that I think all of us are in agreement. But
what about The Rock? Fuck him.
The Rock sounds like the Russell Wilson of Hollywood, though, like the milquetoast, like corny line, kind of. Except that it seems like it's a put on.
I think he's a very easygoing guy, and he's very loyal to people that work for him and that get along with him. And I think the tides can turn fairly easily if you're not like close to him, if that makes sense. And I think in this case, with James Gunn wanting to kind of take over the DCEU and stuff, I think he wanted to have somebody that he could kind of control, and that's kind of what I think of when I hear that the J.J. Abrams movie's still going forward, The Flash is still going forward, Aquaman 2 is still going forward. I'm pretty sure they're done with Shazam 2, and that's why that one's going forward.
Yeah, I heard that Shazam, that Zachary Levi's also out too.
Yeah, so I will probably see that for him, because I genuinely leave Saturday by.
With
To me-
Shazam, they moved it because they were going to release it at the end of the year. So
they claimed that they didn't have enough money to market the film so they moved that film so they can market Black Adam and Don't Worry Darling, and we all see how that ended up for
They
DC.
can only have
or
so many
Warner
tax
Brothers.
write-offs per year, though.
Yeah, that's probably it. And that's another thing that bothers me the most about this whole situation is that they're getting rid of the guys who seem to be at least genuine, good people, you could say, because I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with The Rock, especially over the last few years, so I won't defend him as much, but I will say this is that at least The Rock from maybe 10 years ago, I heard much better things about that Rock than The Rock that's just bought the XFL now, so I'll at least say that. But Henry Cavill, no one ever really had anything negative to say about him. Gal Gadot, no one's really had anything negative to say about her. Zachary Levi, who plays Shazam, I mean, everything I hear about him, he's a really nice guy and a level-headed guy, and these are the guys who you're getting rid of. Meanwhile, you're still actively defending Ezra Miller and Amber Heard and all the other dumpster fires behind the scenes too. So it's very odd that that's the direction that they're choosing to go right now. But I mean,
well, we're talking about the same studio that is keeping Mindy Kaling's Velma and cut a whole bunch of other stuff for this.
Yeah.
Well,
and by the way,
in Kaling's defense, I think you can counter, you can call that cultural reparations in many respects. You can't cut the diversity hires pet project without getting a bunch of Twitter Nazis after you or Twitter commies.
Johnson, let me ask you a question. Did you already file a trademark for cultural reparations and you're trying to make it a thing? Is that why?
I've been talking about it for years.
Okay, well, if you don't own the trademark to that, I suggest you file in the morning.
I got the graphic out with the definition. So it'll be an Urban Dictionary if you could hook me up.
I can't tell you how annoying it is that this is the same. Okay, this corporate structure that the six companies owning 95% of the media in this country, the same corporation that we're talking about also owns the Criterion Channel and Turner Classic Movies. And as I was thinking about this, I was like, and they also had to put a thing in front of Blazing Saddles trying to explain away that, hey, they're actually making fun of racism. And it's why are you people like this? It's you have the good shit, celebrate that, and you can't make anything new, and you are busy making you're fucking up the DCEU, and it's I hate this corporate structure because it's I can't love or hate it because it's made up of so many moving parts. It's awful.
Two quick points real quick. Shout out to Codenomics who's in the chat. He says cultural reparations, he's going to buy that domain. Johnson, he will buy that domain. So you better get on that trademark as soon as possible or you're not going to have to pay for it later on because he's serious. Second of all, with the whole corporate structure, if you think it is bad now, we talked about the rumors a couple of weeks back about maybe Comcast in a few years buying Warner Brothers Discovery, which would be an absolute nightmare because essentially Comcast, which already has the largest market share in all of Hollywood right now, would own the Warner Brothers and the Discovery networks that go along with it. So they would be a super majority when it comes to Hollywood production. That would be absolute worst case scenario. That's even worse than Disney, being honest. And you know how I feel about Disney.
It's insane how that's even a possibility given how much of a ridiculous monopoly Comcast already is.
Yeah. Like I said, it would be even worse than Disney, which is saying a lot. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Well, the Blazing Saddles thing, I've seen those types of, trigger warnings. I saw that in front of the Karate Kid Part 2.
Are you serious?
Are you going to be? Yes, it's going to be offensive toward Japanese.
The Japanese? Give me a fucking break.
And offensive towards Japanese. These are the same people that attack Japanese people all the fucking time. You got to be kidding me.
No. They put that out, and I think it was BBC America that did that, and they put a trigger warning in front of The Godfather. Or The Godfather, I think it's The Godfather because, of course, that's suggesting that Italians are mobsters, which, of course, is not the case.
Wait, they care about white people?
Well, Italians can be Mediterranean, so they're
all of
they're on the scale.
They're mistaken for Jews. It's okay.
Oh.
Italian. Fine.
There are Italian Jews.
In regards to Japanese,
Yeah, Italian
even BBC or not, they attack Japanese people all the time.
Look, the reality is, as soon there's going to be a trigger warning for everything that is like fucking pre-2016.
Well, they do have trigger warnings. At least they mentioned that on the hosts on Turner Classic Movies. Now that does explain why they had that Wonder Women series, where they had the two female hosts on Turner Classic Movies discuss females in film, like their biopics, narrowing down to royalty and social activists. And they did this even though the Wonder Woman 1984 film was pushed back because of the pandemic, but they were stuck, so they had to create it. And you also have to remember that Turner Classic Movies was the one that thought Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is problematic because it would inspire millions of little boys to kidnap women and hold them hostage until they fell in love with them. And I wanted to ask, what guy would really want to watch Seven Brides for Seven Brothers? The first time I saw it was during this reframe series because I wanted to see what was so shocking about it.
I mean, it sounds like a terrible musical.
It's I don't remember any of the songs, so it's not a
like
particularly good
Oklahoma
musical
or something. You know what I mean?
But I mean, there was some good choreography. I'll give them that.
Okay.
But
look, we got to get on to our next topic here. We're gonna be on Turner all night long, especially with Rick. So let's hop over from one actor getting the shaft to another actress getting the shaft, and that's Scarlett Johansson. Now, stop me if you've heard this before. An actress in her 30s who was once cast as a sex symbol in her 20s is now complaining about the fact that she was casted as a sex symbol earlier in her career. So there's a lot of things that I feel about this story here with Scarlett Johansson. I'm going to leave some of my personal feelings aside here because I have heard some stories from people who are very close in the Hollywood industry or have been close in the Hollywood industry that the things you're about to hear now coming from this chick is peak hypocrisy. But let's just go into this one. Spencer wrote this one. Black Panther star Scarlett Johansson claims she was groomed to be a bombshell type actor. Now, keep in mind, I felt like the whole point of this whole article even existing was that they were trying to recapture the word grooming and then groomer because obviously they don't like people using that for the drag queen shit. So now try to be like, oh no, actually I was the one who was groomed. It's like you were 20, you weren't groomed. Shut up. So I hate that. This is a quick little side rant there. If you're in your 30s, no man has ever groomed you, all right? You just fucking slept with the wrong guy. Like, stop it. Like, stop trying to be the victim. Scarlett Johansson has claimed that her status as an attractive leading lady in Hollywood was not a result of simple typecasting based on her looks, but rather be the conclusion that she was groomed to be a bombshell type actor. I wonder who did that, Harvey. The former cinematic MCU star, who's no longer in the MCU because they killed her off, then her movie flopped as well, did an appearance on the an inaugural episode of the former Palm Restaurant Group executive Bruce Bozzi's show, Table for Two. After asserting that the actress could be considered a bombshell type of actress, Bozzi asks, how was she able to put aside her bombshellness for certain roles, to which she recalled she only learned how to do after years of being overtly sexualized. Keep in mind, her star role in the MCU, Black Widow, is a character that actually uses her sexuality to entrap, guys. That's part of her character. They have to call her a femme fatale, so she wasn't claiming then, back in 2009. At this point, I did a movie with the Coen brothers called The Man Who Wasn't There, and around that time I did Ghost World, and I had the sort of become sort of unique sort of actor, she explained. Blanket term for young and typically innocent female characters. Young girls that are really objectified, that's just a fact, she asserted. I think whatever box they're put into of sorts put you into this trajectory for how your life will go. Obviously, women are really able more now to choose their own paths, but for me, I started down this path of young innocent woman. She continues here by saying, when I did Lost in Translation and The Girl with the Pearl Earring, by that point I was 18, 19. I had come into my own womanhood. I was learning about my desirability and sexuality. It says, I think it was because of that trajectory that I sort of been launched towards. I really got stuck. And because of my management, my agency, and all that stuff, I was kind of being groomed in a way to be this, what you would call, bombshell type of actor. Now, Rob, weren't you the one who mentioned the story about her in the island, about how she was the one in the Michael Bay movie who wanted to do the nude scene? Was that you, or was that Orange Hat?
I think that was Orange Hat, because I remember her in that movie, like in
Yeah.
like 2005, but I don't remember that specific tidbit.
Orange Hat, do you recall that conversation that we had?
I'm sorry, what conversation?
The about the Scarlett Johansson in The Island, about how she wanted to be in the nude scene in the film, and then I guess it was Michael Bay that told her no.
I don't recall that conversation. I'm sorry.
Okay, I maybe it was on a different podcast, but I remember we just talked about that fairly recently. But she goes on to say here, I was playing the other woman, the object of desire, she explained, and then suddenly I found myself cornered in this place that I couldn't get out of, where, yeah, she was burdened by the role of being the bombshell sexy character.
Just playing victim again.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, however, the actress noted that she was able to get out of this thanks to her agent, who met her request to branch out to different roles with open arms. It says, would it be easy probably to sit across from someone in that situation and go, this is working, why change it? It said, for that kind of bombshell, that burns bright and quick, and then it's done. You don't have the opportunity beyond that, and I felt like I was burning out too quickly. It was just an interesting, weird conundrum to be in, but it really came back to working at it and trying to carve a place in different projects and work on great ensembles. Now, like I said, there's a lot of things to unpack here with Scarlett's claims. I could say that there's a lot of salacious details that I probably won't admit on here on the show that I've heard about her specifically, but let's just say no one had to groom her to be okay with anything. I'll just leave it at that. We know some of the people who she's been associated with over the years, the projects that she's done on. No one had to twist her arm to really get her to do anything that she didn't want to do, and I'll just leave it on that. But we've seen this so many times when an actress hits a certain age, and when they were known younger at their careers, they were getting a lot of roles playing the beautiful young woman, the hot, sexy woman that everyone wanted to cast and everyone wanted to be. Then you stop getting those roles at a certain point, and suddenly you start getting the role of the mother. Suddenly you start getting the role of, not the person of desire, but kind of like just a person like an interest. The roles change, and I hear on this interview she's trying to frame it as if that was specifically her choice, but I don't think that that's exactly the choice that plays out in her mind here. So I'll start with Orange Hat. We can go around here. What do you make of Scarlett Johansson's claims that she was groomed to be a quote-unquote bombshell in the early stages of her career, and basically in like the mid-2000s and so on?
I think her reasons behind this and the many other statements that have been covered by Bounding are essentially equal to what former Ellen, now Elliot Page, is doing, constantly creating something up in order to stay relevant. And remember, she can complain all she wants. It doesn't stop or disregard the fact that she was the, I believe, second or first highest grossing actor in 2019, or female actress, and whatnot. As for her saying that she was being groomed by Hollywood in the early 2000s, can you prove your allegations? I am seriously sick and tired, absolutely just done with hearing anybody make these allegations and not show any fucking evidence. I'm done with it. If they make the claim, I'm most likely going to disregard it until they bring some sort of evidence forward that supports it. And I'm not just talking about, oh, I remember it being like this. No, you're going to have to bring forward eyewitnesses. You're also going to should probably bring forward some very solid evidence, because otherwise there's nothing that can really be done about it. It's in the past. There ain't nothing to be done about it. Now, if she was groomed by Hollywood to be a bombshell actress, and she wanted to branch out, then she should have said something. Honestly, I don't understand why people don't open their mouths. Because if they did, or if they learned to open their mouths as kids, they should have kept that sort of thing as an adult and just continued talking. It's like, okay, I don't want to be a bombshell. I would like to be something else. I mean, I'd like to branch out. Okay, then a good agent will say, okay, let's branch out. Let's see what we can find. But yeah, she agreed to do what she did. She did it. She made a bunch of money off of it. She's sounding like Alyssa Milano. Oh, women are objectified. Women are hypersexualized. How did you exactly make your fortune? That's all I got to say to this.
Yeah. It wasn't a problem, what was it, like 10 years ago now when she got the Black Widow role, or like 11 years ago now, around that same time. Like I said, when she was at, the Golden Globes being like the bombshell level actress, we never hear these complaints when, they're getting all the attention and all the roles. It's always years after the fact that, they try to somehow make you feel bad for, it's like, well, you played into this whole bombshell role, you being the viewer, you being the audience, so maybe this is your fault. It's like, stop trying to blame us for the things that go on in Hollywood, like this whole Harvey Weinstein thing. That was you guys covered that shit up for many years. Don't try to point the finger at us like somehow we're responsible for what happened over there.
Well, I mean, I grew up like thinking Scarlett Johansson was the hottest woman on earth, as a teenager and as a young man, and so it's like and yet she was in good movies. Like she was in Match Point, the Woody Allen movie in 2005, where like she's kind of in this relationship with this tennis pro who ends up murdering her, and it's like it's really good. And she was in that crappy, what is it, The Perfect Score, that movie about where they steal the SATs with Chris Evans, Lost in Translation, and then she like sort of transitions, but she always leaned into the sexuality of her characters, and that's what made her character her alluring as a screen presence. It was never trashy or sleazy, but she definitely leaned into the sexuality of her characters, and so you never felt like it was put upon her, or she was like, it was like a Marilyn Monroe situation, like what we saw in Blonde or something. It was very much somebody who understood what her desirability and her market was, and she leaned into her strengths. And so, I mean, she played in Under the Skin as a murderous alien in the form of a beautiful woman. And so it's like, to me, it's sour grapes, because she had all these roles for 10 to 15 years, and she's still not bad looking, but she, those roles are drying up. Being a Hollywood celebrity is drying up anyway. So that's kind of why we're hearing about it now. But yeah, it's kind of like sour grapes. And I think someone's telling her to use the word groom, to push back against, what's going on right now with, kids being
the drag queens and then try. Yeah.
So, I think it's a whole lot of nothing, but I agree with Orange Hat. If something happened, where's the evidence? Where's the proof?
Yeah, I think Scarlett Johansson has no right to try and portray herself as a victim. You made the choices that you made as an adult. I don't fucking feel sorry for you. They really need to stop putting out these bullshit stories and whatever to put them, especially if they're like the females that constantly are like, oh, female empowerment, this and that. Why don't you act like an empowered fucking woman? Because you've had way more fucking opportunities than most women, period. Okay? So just like what you think, what you constantly praise and shit like that. Stop acting like a victim. I don't feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for people like Aaliyah that dropped on fucking R. Kelly's doorstep at 14 years old. That's the shit that fucks with me and I feel bad about and I wish, would change. And that's something legitimate to be concerned about. Not your bullshit about how you're upset that you were sexualized at 20. Get the fuck out of here.
That's a good point, though, to jump off of that. It's like, dude, that's not grooming what you're doing. That's actually hurting people that, are legitimately being groomed in Hollywood, because it is happening.
Yeah.
It has been happening for decades. And it's something that really bugged me when Amber Heard did that stupid shit to Johnny Depp, and we see this constantly when women lie about being abused or raped or whatnot. And it drives me freaking up the wall because it's like, dude, now you're just really fucking over women that actually are being abused or are being raped. And like, what?
Yeah,
What
look,
does that do?
there's 1,000% real victims in Hollywood. Scarlett Johansson is not one of them. So let's just be very clear about that.
I will say, like, she was kind of a younger actress, and I think getting in, like, you do have like a progression in Hollywood as like an actor, because like if you, especially if you grow up in it. I mean, like, I know people who are,
for example, Brooke Shields. I could understand if she was saying something like this, but
yeah, but I mean, like, and this is where like parents like need to watch their kids. Like, I've been told by people that work in the industry specifically, if your kids come with you when we go to X movie set, don't let them out of your sight at all. And I mean, like, I'd never take my kids anyway, but it's still like one of those things where it's like, that's probably good advice, but it's very easy to get caught up in the, like, you get there and you see all these people running around and there's a lot of stuff going on and there's a food table sometimes, you know, and there's people there that want to chat with you. And I mean, like, it can be very engrossing, and you get distracted by things, and sometimes like people say things to you that you don't actually realize are like kind of suggestive in the wrong way. So I don't think it's a matter of, I mean, this is a whole industry that's built on getting people like a certain reaction out of people and a certain response out of people. So I mean, there are people who, even if it's not grooming in the sexual sense, there are people that are especially with younger children and younger actresses, that they have to get the job done, and I mean, all of them are on deadlines, and it's like a little, you know, it's one of those things where it's not really a great industry for kids. And I'm perfectly happy to go back to the Grease era where all the teenagers look like 40-year-olds. So.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, just real quick. I know for a fact that Scarlett Johansson over the last few years has really been trying to transition into producing movies. It hasn't exactly gone well for her. She tried to do a couple of woke projects over the last couple of years that blew up in her face because she was supposed to play a trans woman or a trans man in a project, and the trans communities came after her, gave her shit because she's not a real trans person and she should be playing a trans role. So she basically had to like get rid of the movie like altogether and give up on the project, even though people were complaining. It's like, no, it has to be a real trans woman. It's like, well, if it's a real trans woman, no one's gonna watch the movie. Like, the only reason why people would even be interested in it because it's Scarlett Johansson, but they don't seem to understand that. So now that project is completely dead. So there's a couple of other things that she's been working on. I heard a lot about Project Artemis, which is something that she's been trying to produce. I think she tried to get Chris Evans to be a part of it, but then he left the project. And then like Jason Bateman was also supposed to be a part of it. He left the project as well. So I think they're down to like Channing Tatum or something like that. So she's been trying to venture out in these other sections of filmmaking. It hasn't exactly gone well for her and over the last couple of years too. And now with the whole fallout with Disney, she won't be getting any big projects like that anytime soon as well. So she, like I said, she just feels like to me another 30-year-old actress at a crossroads in her Hollywood career, and now she's trying to throw people under the bus to keep her career relevant. Am I being a little too hard on her on that?
No, I mean, like, people should find, I mean, like, in Hollywood, you should be known for being a good actress if you're a good actress, not because you look good. I mean, it's like kind of like what Rick saying about Henry Cavill. It's like, if he's a good actor, he's a good actor. And if she's a good actress, she should be a good actress. And I mean, like, if you're older too, like, there are other ways to get attention. Okay, like Patricia Heaton is an older actress that I know of, and she does a lot of charity work. That's great, you know. She's not a victim. She's helping other people who are victims. It's like, can we move away from this idea that, you know, like, sexuality lasts forever and sexual allure is an ageist thing, but also detrimental. But if you can't be one, you're also not out. I mean, like, it's this weird quagmire of stuff that needs to, we just kind of need to get it back to like, is this
It's
person actually a good actress?
it's a weird dynamic that we're creating now, where we're trying to tell women on one hand that your sexuality isn't anything and that we should judge you by your merit and blah blah blah. But then let's, I don't know, apply that same logic to an OnlyFan girl, and then all of that stuff goes completely out the window. We throw it right out just like that. So it's like, okay, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the person whose only value is your sexuality, as long as you're making a whole bunch of money, or do you want to be taken as the super serious actress role? Because you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, and it doesn't work both ways.
You know what's absolutely frustrating about this whole thing is that movies, for the longest time, and I do mean, well, no, fuck it. Movies are about desire in a lot of ways. Like seeing beautiful people do things you probably shouldn't be watching them do to a large degree. Like that's a lot of what movies are. And it's like movies have stopped being that interesting to the point where all people can do is try to deconstruct the sexual politics of reality. And it's like, guys, we're here to make movies. We're here to entertain people. We're here to hopefully on some level, God forbid, titillate people. And it's like we're having political conversations about sex and gender that aren't interesting and are, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing artistic about this. And so it's just like, it makes my head want to explode.
Yeah.
Rob
you just
Botto
take your beer, Rob, so.
He actually has a good point there, because I just recently heard that they're going to try doing a remake of Fatal Attraction. How the heck are you going to do a remake of Fatal Attraction in today's social structure, where you basically take sex scenes out of there's no sex scenes in movies anymore.
You get it produced by Seth Rogen, and you just show another guy's balls and expect it to be funny. That's how you do it.
I was going to say you gender swap.
What they're going to do is they're going to make the male the only villain. The two women are going to be entirely victims in that situation. Look, it's Scarlett Johansson. At the end of the day, the best way I could put it, put the kibosh on the shit, is that not everyone can be one of my favorite actresses, Yvonne DiCarlo. A person that had a absolutely long career, so much so it's kind of like a running joke. I mean, like a song that she performed in like her 60s is called "I'm Still Here." So it's like Yvonne DiCarlo is one of those people that, given her husband had sustained a serious injury in How the West Was Won, he was a stuntman, he lost his leg. She had to be like, well, I gotta be the bread earner, and she did exactly that. And she had a absolutely long career, and she's more known for her role as Lily Munster, which was a role that she had in her 40s, and then she went on to do like 2 movies after that. Look, not everyone could be Yvonne DiCarlo. Scarlett, with the way you're bitching and crying, you clearly ain't that. So either put up or shut up. I really don't want to hear it.
Yeah, there's Lily Munster and Sephora in the Ten Commandments. That's the only things really I know Yvonne DiCarlo from. When it comes to ScarJo, there's a couple of things. First, I mean, she just can't catch a break. She got into trouble when she wanted to play a trans woman and was resisting until she finally was forced to give up. Then she got into trouble before or after when she was for Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
When she was cultural appropriation. And the thing is, I think Scarlett Johansson is a talented actress. I think she has skill. This thing about her being groomed to be a bombshell or to be a sex symbol. I mean, has she not seen any film where a lot of women and a lot of men are cast because of their looks? I mean, how do you think Henry Cavill has a career? Talent? No. But the thing for me is that it does take away her agency when she's in her 20s. I mean, I can understand when she was younger, maybe 14, 15, you're not as aware and you don't have as much control. But once you hit your 20s, your early 20s, your mid 20s, you should be able to say, I'm not comfortable with a particular role. I'm not comfortable with a particular scene. You can have no nude clauses. I think some actresses have that. where you insist on having body doubles if you're not comfortable showing your own body. So I'm perplexed as to why she says that she was groomed from I guess an early age to be this sort of sex goddess. Eventually, she has to grow into
that
Go
can't
ahead.
be true. It just can't be true. Did you see what she looked like in Ghost World? I mean, she was not attractive at all. So I call bullshit on that. I'm sorry, but it's like, and Girl with the Pearl Earring is the same thing. It's like she's too young before she grew into her looks, and then it's like by Lost in Translation, it's like the movie opens as with a shot of her ass in underwear. So it's like, I'm sorry, lady. There's just no way. You cannot convince me that that's accurate.
You know what I mean? She did consent to all of this, and you look at the stars from the so-called golden age that were sex symbols, but did not have to disrobe or even show a lot of skin. People like Grace Kelly, Elizabeth Taylor, Audrey Hepburn. These were considered beautiful, attractive, desirable women. But I mean, what the most Betty Grable or Rita Hayworth ever showed were their legs, and they weren't considered like vulgar, and they didn't have to do anything that was considered vulgar. Again, Scarlett Johansson at a certain age had enough experience, knowledge, and I think probably pull to say no, I'm not doing this. So I'm troubled by the idea that she lost all agency and all power when she had a certain amount of power where she could have stepped in and said no.
Well, I think the main thing that we can point to Scarlett and say, well, you've kind of fucked yourself, is essentially Scarlett, like the industry, listens and caters to these woke losers that constantly bitch and moan about every little thing that Hollywood has done, if it be in the past, present, or even in the future. They've essentially put female roles into a box, and there's very few things to pick from. And Scarlett, you went along with it, willingly so. I don't want to hear you fucking crying about it. And it's like she did try and kind of fight back, but she gave up because she's a fucking coward, and the only victim she's fallen to is self-victimization. You chose to go with the cog, and now, it's harder for me to get the roles that I would like to have. I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for you. Become a stay-at-home mom, or go to television or some bullshit. I really don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty strong way to end this topic. But I will say one thing. Definitely recommend the film Ghost World if you haven't seen that one yet. Her, Steve Buscemi is in the movie. Then I completely blanked on the other girl's name.
Laura Birch.
Laura Birch is the other one. Yeah, definitely recommend it. It's a good movie. I think that came out like 2001, so I'll check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. Now, let's move over. Let's stay on the topic of female victimhood. Did you guys know that Amazon Rings of Power is going to be directed by all women now for the second season? So keep in mind, in case you guys don't remember, let me give you guys a little refresher here. Amazon spent like $1 billion for the rights to the Tolkien universe and Lord of the Rings. And in the course of doing that, they committed themselves to 5 years, $250 million per season for the Rings of Power. Now, when people saw the stills for the first Lord of the Rings series, they were like, okay, this clearly isn't Tolkien. You guys are just doing some woke nonsense here. Like, I'm already out. But they tried to deny it, say, no, that's not the case. Well, it was the case. It was the case the whole time, because Amazon Prime has now announced that their next season of the show, season 2, is going to feature all female directors, because that's what we needed in the Lord of the Rings universe. There wasn't enough female representation in Lord of the Rings, but that's what's coming. Amazon and Prime Video announced all-female directing team for the next season of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, which the first season didn't exactly get high praises from anyone outside of the people who were trying to pretend like that this was some kind of achievement for brown people and women. And the press release, Charlotte Branstrom said that the show will return alongside Sanil Hamir and Louise Hopper. Bronstrom, who directed episodes 6 and 7 of the first season, Yeah, which also featured, I guess, Mountain Doom somewhere in that one, in the sixth season alone. But apparently, this season is going to be even stronger on the female representation side. Let me go here. Amiri, who previously worked on Fox's Empire, as well as an episode of the upcoming series Wheel of Time, has also directed episodes of Nashville, Desperate Housewives, Shameless, Glee, etc. So she has TV experience, and she's coming to Rings of Power. Hooper also has credits in Sandman, The Witcher, Treason, number 9. The second season, Nordstrom will be directing 4 episodes and will also serve as the co-executive producer of the series. The other 2 will also be directing 2 episodes each. Season 1 directors J.A. Boyana and Wayne Yip will not be returning for a new season here. There's a picture of Hopper there, just so you guys know. Not many details have been revealed about what season 2 will feature, but I'm assuming that the feature is going to be female. The showrunners did indicate that Sauron will be playing a major role in this series, which great. I guess that's going to be a draw for Tolkien fans, maybe, but. Yeah, so after unprecedented success, which they claim that this show had unprecedented success, we're going to move on with season 2. It's going to have at least a $200 to $250 million budget, and it's going to be directed by all women, which means that if you guys love what you got in season 1, they're only going to be doubling down even further in season 2. So I can't wait for there to be a Middle Eastern, Middle Earth Trump rally like we saw on the first season of Rings of Power. I mean, look, you guys pretty much get the gist of this whole thing now. What do you think of Lord of the Rings? Orange Hat, I know you're the big Tolkien fan, so I guess we'll start with you on this topic. Features female, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Well, first off, Amazon didn't do anything that's called The Lord of the Rings. They didn't do anything that is Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings is Tolkien's work, and they didn't do anything to respect his work, honor his work, or reflect his work. They took names that are a part of his legendarium, and they tried making something out of it that wasn't what he did. Honestly, if a valid Tolkien was alive, the estate would have pulled the contract, like they originally, if memory serves, stipulated. If you change anything that was part of the lore, that is part of the continuity, the show's canceled. They should have stuck with that. But after Christopher died, it was given over to lesser people. And I say lesser as in lesser in character. For any SJWs to be triggered, I don't give a shit. As for this futurist female bullshit that is coming out of Amazon, because apparently Kathleen Kennedy gave them an STD, well, that's their choice, honestly. Just because the director is going to be female, they're setting it up so that they can play victim more. Now they're going to basically say, well, you're all racist in the first season. Well, now you're all sexist in the second season because you didn't like the show this time. And everybody's pointing out, oh, well, we knew they were going to point it out. Well, yeah, you're giving it over to people. First off, are these people even fans of Tolkien? Second off, what's their accolades? What's their IMDb's? What are they known for? And if they are known for only doing like commercials or television series that cost like $2 just to make a single episode, don't give them this, or don't give them Rings of Power, because Rings of Power is a billion-dollar project, and they're not ready for that. They weren't ready for that in the first season, because look how that happened. Nobody liked it. Consistent dropping in views every week, except for the finale, I believe. And they continue to say, oh, it was a success. Well, we already knew you were going to claim a success because you stupidly admitted you were going to. I covered that, and I believe that's one of my highest viewed videos today on my channel. I'm sick and tired of Prime Video's abuse of Tolkien's work. I will not watch Rings of Power. I do not acknowledge the existence of Rings of Power except in this conversation here. Because I'm going to respect Tolkien's memory, which I made a promise to not watch a full episode of that show. I have seen clips. I can't avoid that all the time, so that's why I specifically made the promise to not watch an episode in full. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
All right. Anyone else want to take up the Rings of Power issue with the female directors?
I just want to say something real quick because I have no opinion on the show, and I hear it's terrible from fans, so that's all I need to know. But I'll say this: like TV, and maybe the Rings of Power is different on this, but like TV, largely, like directors don't matter. Directors are like hired hands on a television set. They follow what's written by usually the executive producer, who's usually the showrunner, or the writing team. You know, it's usually executing what's written and kind of really sticking to that. There's very little creative input by directors. Now, maybe they're saying, oh, each director is going to have their own creative input or creative vision with this stuff. Largely, it doesn't matter because it's a sort of tokenist announcement anyway. It's sort of, hey, all women are directing, meaning the sensitivity and insight of the female gender will be on display in each crafted episode of, whatever. It's all bullshit. But basically, that's the takeaway. So, I'm not going to watch it. I have no interest in watching it. It just seems like they're going to double down on what they want the show to be, from what season 1 was.
Same here. I've not seen an episode of it because I just have no interest in it. But the fact that that all the directors are women, to me, it's irrelevant because a good director will always be able to make a good television program or film, regardless of gender. It's ultimately what's on screen that will decide whether something is good or bad. One can only hope, and I do hope that they were not hired to say we're having all females. If that was the motivation, that's something that I'm not I'm not particularly thrilled with. If you're saying we're hiring women just to hire women, but if you can make the case that these were the best people that you could find to direct a massive production, and that they have at least some interest and some concern for the property and for the identification that a lot of Tolkien fans have, even though, from what I understand, this is not exactly up any Tolkien fans' street. Then let them do their work and see what happens. I've no dog in this fight when it comes to whether they're all women, but just hiring women to hire women, I don't know if that's going to work. Again, I go back to my experience with Doctor Who. They hired minority writers who knew nothing of the property, and it didn't turn out well for various reasons. Some of it was because they wanted to inject more political things in it, and some because they just did not know the property or did not care for science fiction, so they weren't invested in it, and they were just kind of doing it to say, oh, we have an Indian, or we have a black woman writing on this show. Isn't that great? Isn't that progressive? Isn't that a step forward? But if you're not going to have any interest in the property, then then you could hire a woman, you could hire a man, you could hire a black woman. It's not going to make you're not going to make your product any better. So, I mean, I wish them well, but the fact that they have women directors is not going to make me watch, and it's not going to make me not watch. I just don't want to watch because I have no interest in the project.
I think Rick and I can agree pretty good on that one. So, I mean, if it's good, it'll be good, but at this point, I don't think it'll be good just because it's like, I've become so cynical with all their token sort of offerings like this. I don't see this as like a plus for women. I see this as a test, and if they fail, they're going to end up pushing women back, like real women of talent back, probably another 10 years at least. So.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was just to say real quick, in the grand scheme of things, when I look at this and their response to an abysmal debut of a piece of shit TV show is, well, we're going to make everyone that behind the camera a female. And it's just like, this tells me that you already conceded that you're losers pretty much. And this being the response to me, the only thing to gain from this is to adhere to the social credit system that is low key in place. That's all it is. And I hope that this doesn't come to fruition, because I think that's what a lot of these companies are prepared for.
The last like all-writer female team I can think of that made anything was that Turning Red movie by Disney. And all I can say to that is like, no, thank you. I think that was a good indicator of what we're going to get. So.
The funny thing about the Turning Red controversy was that everyone gave that one critic shit because he basically said that this is only a movie that like Chinese girls from Toronto can identify with, and he was right. Like the director basically just made a movie about herself and put it under the Pixar logo, and people somehow gave him shit like he was wrong when he pretty much nailed it perfectly. But then I don't give him that much credit because he apologized like a little bitch. But yeah, I mean, look, this whole thing with female writers and female directors, like, all you're telling me at this point is that your show's going to be shit. You only care about ideology. You don't care about anything that the lore is presented on, because the guy who wrote it all is dead anyway, so you can basically just piss on his legacy now that he's no longer here, just like you did with Stan Lee and so many other guys who IP you managed to steal and make it significantly worse, because now you can put your little progressive parasite in the storytelling. So, yeah, good luck with that one. I hope you guys lose another $250 million. And to address this point before we go on to our next topic, apparently in the chat there's an argument right now about who had a better career between Scarlett Johansson and Jamie Lee Curtis. I will say this, I think some of the people saying Scarlett Johansson are saying that based on the MCU films. You can argue that Scarlett Johansson has been technically in quote unquote bigger movies, but Jamie Lee Curtis's career in Halloween alone is longer than Scarlett Johansson has been alive on this planet. I don't think you have enough of a resume there to say that she has a bigger career than Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis has come to define what is the final girl trope. Like, her character, the original Halloween, is iconic in establishing what is the blueprint of the slasher. Really in the grand scheme of things. So,
Jamie Lee Curtis has also been in more objectively higher quality films than Scarlett Johansson.
And memorable too.
Well, I mean, just
hold on a second. Are you besmirching Eight-Legged Freaks? Is that what you're doing right now?
You bet your fucking ass I am. By the way, why didn't anybody say anything about, or why didn't she say anything about being hypersexualized in that movie? I mean, basically a spider just blew its load all over her in that movie.
It was David Arquette's problem.
When you think of Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, True Lies is something else that pops in to people's minds, and that is a great role. She mixed comedy with action and even a little
sexuality.
Yeah,
and she didn't cry about it. Okay, I think Jamie Lee, honestly, I think Scarlett Johansson, I don't think she's very attractive personally. And what is
not
Jamie
now.
Lee Curtis? Like, wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis like fucking 40
She
in
never
True Lies,
was.
and she had an insane body? Like, that is crazy, really, to think about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm in the minority here, but I'm like, I respect Jamie Lee Curtis.
You're not in the minority. You like here maybe, but I know so many dudes that are just like would die for this woman because they think that she's a visual masterpiece.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis has a great legacy because of her mom and because of her.
Both her parents, really. Both of her parents.
So
her mom and her dad.
And absolutely. So that's one, and it's an amazing legacy. Certainly, the final girl thing. I personally have never thought she'd been in that many great movies. I love True Lies, and I think her role as Laurie Strode has a legacy to it. But those are the two big ones. I just think Scarlett Johansson has consistently been in like A-list material over the last 20 years. Now, you could argue that the movies were better in Jamie Lee Curtis's era. And that's totally fair. But yeah, I think just the material Scarlett Johansson's had has been better. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's done more with it.
But then again, Jamie Lee Curtis has had something of a comeback with everywhere, all at
Oh
once.
God! Please stop that. Oh,
No, I'm
such a
not.
bad
Look,
movie.
whatever you think of it, and I did like it. Whatever you think of it, her career has sparked back. I mean, you don't have this major
Yeah.
Oscar talk
Yeah.
if it didn't have some kind of impact with people in the industry.
Yeah.
I
Even
think
if you dislike it, I liked it, and she has received major credit for some of the film's success. So
one
whatever you
thing.
think, I think you have to concede that she has been at least has a major comeback here, as opposed to Scarlett Johansson, who has yet to have a big major comeback
Christ.
role.
Yeah.
I will say this one thing about Jamie Lee Curtis that I think is genuinely a testament to her as an actress and her ability to be honestly a really important figure. I mean, this woman is the child of two iconic actors, and she is not living in their shadow. That to me is a testament to her as an actress in her work.
Yeah, both her parents are Oscar nominees, and if she pulls it off, she will be like one of the rare to have like both her parents be Oscar nominees. So that's if she pulls it off. But
I
regardless of
remember
that,
her from all the Activia commercials, but I've always respected her.
The
Because-
diarrhea yogurt.
That's right. Have good digestion, folks.
Well, I mean, my point in bringing this up is that Jamie Lee Curtis has had like op-eds about like what it's like to like live in your own shadow in some respects, because she's done like she did that magazine article where she posed in her underwear without Photoshop, and it was like a very authentic sort of thing. So and it's not meant to be sexualized, but it's to show the power of like looking good and how they, the media can manipulate things. And that was in the early to like mid 2000s, I think, and stuff. And she's talked about how she's never going to dye her hair again and stuff too, since it went white. And, I mean, like at some point, like I respect that, because that's like kind of just owning it. I think Scarlett Johansson's kind of fighting the gradual. She's in that denial phase before acceptance creeps in, and she's gonna have to like class it up and stand on her own 2 feet like a big girl.
Get ready to start playing people's moms, Scarlett. That's all I have to say. So
Jamie Lee Curtis did it in Freaky Friday. So
well, I mean, just look how she played off of Florence. What's her face?
Pugh.
Black.
Pugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Black Widow.
Spencer's sim crush.
Well, I mean, like, I don't think they had a bad dynamic in the film, but you could definitely see that she's a lot more world weary.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was acting so far, so much, really. So
She already played a mother, Scarlett Johansson,
Yep,
in Jojo Rabbit,
Yep.
which was a shitty movie as well.
yeah,
One of
The
things
movie
I will
was
say,
shit.
though-
The movie was shit, but she was actually good in the movie. She was like one of the
Yeah,
few bright spots in the film.
She was
I'll
also
give
good
her
in
that.
Marriage Story,
Did-
which I thought was overrated, but
which
thought-
one?
A Marriage Story, with her and Adam Driver kind of going back and forth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she was like the rare nominee for lead and supporting the same year for Jojo Rabbit and
Oh,
Marriage
that's
Story.
right. Yeah.
She was also in Rough Night, which was my worst movie of 2017, but we're not going to mention that one.
You
right
guys have
now.
seen a lot more. I've never seen Eight-Legged Freaks. I've never seen, what was that movie from 2017? Something like
Rough Night.
Rough
the
Night?
one with her and who else is in that movie? Zoe Kravitz is in the movie, and then the chick from Broad City was also in that film
Is that
too.
the one where the woman throws herself on the male stripper and kills him accidentally?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
What?
my
The
mom
chick from the Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live is in there too.
my mom dragged me to see that one.
Yeah, that movie fucking sucked. All right, we're gonna go ahead and hit up our closer here. And I know this is gonna be shocking for some of you people, but maybe in the last 5 years or so, you guys have noticed that there's a lot of gay people in movies now. It's almost like every time you turn on a modern movie or TV show, there's just gay people everywhere. And now you're seeing a bunch of like trans people and things of that nature. Well, GLAAD, who is the biggest LGBTQ lobby in Hollywood, is actually making the argument that there's not enough gay people in movies. As a matter of fact, according to them, they're underrepresented even still. Now, I've brought more attention to GLAAD over the last few years because I don't think people really know who's running the show, because we always hear the arguments, why is Hollywood placating to such a small minority of people? Why are they placating to the minority, not the majority? It's like, it's not the fact that they're the minority in society. They happen to be the majority in places of power in Hollywood, which is why you're seeing all this. They look at, Disney, look at all the executives that are on there. A lot of them are women, a lot of them are lesbians. Look at the people who are behind GLAAD right now. CEO Sarah Kate Ellis is the one who's driving and really getting in the ear in a lot of these studios for more LGBTQ representation in movies. And yeah, they released their annual studio responsibility index, which is their annual report card about gay and trans and bi and all that stuff, representation in movies. And they're claiming that more work needs to be done in Hollywood film. So yeah, the Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, which sounds a lot like the ADL to me, but that's a story for another day. They're grading studios now on their LGBTQ advocacy. Now, we talked about the whole Florida bill earlier in the show about Rob DeSantis and the parents and all that stuff. Obviously, that whole thing angered them very, very much. So they decided they were going to update their index to grade studios based on their progressivism when it comes to politics, donating money, and standing up for LGBTQ issues, which means trans kids and other things like that as well. Yeah, so here, Sarah Kate Ellis, who is the CEO and president, this is earlier this year. She said that no company chooses silence over allyship, should receive high scores from LGBTQ organizations, while nearly 200 anti-LGBTQ bills advance in states around the country, often targeting transgender youth, she says. So keep in mind, this is the woman who's probably responsible for a lot of these films and television shows you're watching right now. She also said that corporations need to be held responsible for funding politicians that harm LGBTQ people and their employees or their inaction on legislation that they can help defeat. So I want to get more into the numbers here because there's a couple of quotes that will come back here, but I want to get to the numbers that they're suggesting here. So this is their 10th annual Studio Responsibility Index. So they've been doing this for 10 years, which just happens to be the same period of time you've seen all these characters in your movies, in your television shows, and streaming services. That's not by coincidence, by the way. But looking at their numbers, they say that based on all the movies that were released in 2021, so this is last year, 20.8% of them, this is out of the 7 major studios, had LGBTQ characters in their film. So almost 21% of the movies you watched in 2021 had some form of an LGBTQ character in that film, in that studio. They gave Sony, UA, Universal Pictures, and Walt Disney insufficient scores, while Warner Brothers received a poor score. Meanwhile, Lionsgate and Paramount received the worst score of failing due to their films not containing any LGBTQ characters. This is 2021, by the way. So Lionsgate and Paramount are the worst based on this metric. They also have this other, by the way, they're also complaining about the fact that there's no LGBTQ characters with disability or living with HIV. So they want more disabled trans characters, and they also want more gay and trans characters with AIDS. Like, this is their own admission. I'm not even making this up. This is what they're saying here. They're saying that community is severely underrepresented by their own metrics. Now, this is where it starts getting ridiculous. They have something called the Vito Russo test. Has anyone ever heard of this? Has anyone heard? I didn't even hear about this until I read this fucking story. But we all know, was it the Bechdel test? Where two women can't talk about a man or some nonsense like this. This is the parameters for the Vito Russo test that they grade movies on in GLAAD. In order to pass this test, your film has to contain a character that is identifiably gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, or queer. That character must not solely or prominently be defined by their sexual orientation or gender identity, i.e. their compromised sort of character traits, so they can't be a stereotype. That's another rule. The character must be tied to the plot in such a way that the character's removal will have a significant effect in the movie, meaning that you can't just have a throwaway character in the film be gay. It has to be someone with a strong connection to the plot of the movie, or else it doesn't count. And then also, the character's story must not be outrightly offensive quote unquote, devoting into stereotypes or further development of LGBTQ people. And in multiple films, at least one character must pass this point for the film to pass the test. This is all real. I didn't make any of that stuff up. These are all real things that they want on here. At the time where the LGBTQ community is under unprecedented attacks, because you guys are messing with other people's kids, it is more important than ever to hold studios and corporations accountable at business, as businesses remains the most entrusted entity in the United States. This is Ellis, the CEO, talking. So this is the metric that they're using now to grade these studios. She's pretty much saying that, yeah, you guys have 20%. That number needs to go higher. We need more trans characters. We need more people with HIV. We need more people with disabilities. You got to write even better, stronger gay characters. This is what Hollywood is now. I'll start with Rob because you're probably going to be stuck watching a lot of these movies. What do you think about GLAAD claiming that there's not enough LGBTQ representation in films? Maybe they haven't watched a movie in the last 10 years. That's all I'm going to say there.
So I have almost no relationship to GLAAD. It's weird that it goes back almost 10 years, but okay. So I brought him up before, but my favorite podcaster, Brett Easton Ellis, he's a gay man and he tends to go the other way on a lot of LGBTQ issues because he thinks it's kind of gross and it's like, you know, just don't be so like, don't project everything out to society just because you need them to accept you. Just like learn to accept yourself and things will be fine. But basically, he was asked not to attend the GLAAD Awards like 7-8 years ago because he wrote this essay basically about how he doesn't want to be a good, clean, gay. He wants to be able to say what he wants to say. He wants to say his his opinions basically. And like the problem with like taking all of the sort of like jagged edges away is you don't make interesting stories. And so you have a reputation going back to the 90s of a lot of gay cinema being about tragedy and being about HIV. And there's like the reason that the mainstream audience has not caught up or asked for like gay movies or gay cinema is because most of them are about these very like sad, depressing topics that don't relate to a larger enjoyment of life and like developing characters. So I GLAAD like has its head up its ass wanting there to be more gay representation. So according to those 2021 numbers, that's 3 times the gay population. The gay population is 7%. So they're talking about what, almost 21% like were basically had gay characters. And it's like, the list that they give in that article, the list that you have to adhere to these different things, it's like a Soviet style like cinema where it's like for us to show your movie, you have to adhere to the state's requirements. It's absolutely asinine.
Yeah, and just real quick, there was some other things on their list too here that they highlighted. They're counting the amount of LGBTQ characters in theatrical releases. Keep in mind, this is just movies. This doesn't even include TV and streaming, but they do make counts for TV and streaming as well. They celebrating the fact that we're finally getting transgender characters in a major studio release. They're saying that racial diversity of these characters has slightly dropped because now only 39% of the LGBTQ characters are characters of color, being Black and Hispanic. They saw a decrease in bisexual representation in movies, slight decrease in characters overall from 2020. From 2020, even though there was just less movies in 2020. As we saw here, the whole HIV thing, which is the second time I've seen them note this, by the way, so they're really trying to push that whole thing. I mean, there's this whole like list of things that they're ranking on their website, but as ridiculous as all this shit sounds, all of the major studios are listening to these people. I mean, they have their ears in pretty much every single major studio from Warner, Disney, Paramount, all the list down. So they have power now, and you're going to see more and more studios try to fix their mistake by putting even more characters in future films. So,
well, first I would argue that anybody's the so-called transgender character that they picked from West Side Story, I do not know if that was the intention of Stephen Sondheim and Leonard Bernstein, who themselves were gay men, and what was uh, Jerome Jerome Robbins, the director. I don't think that was in their intention. That was something I think Tony Kushner was the one that advocated, since he co-wrote or he wrote the screenplay.
Yep.
But you can't have them complain about, oh, we need characters that are HIV positive, and then support something like Bros, which was so sex oriented, where these people, not once they were, I mean, they were sleeping around having orgies, not once did they talk about condoms or any kind of protection.
Yeah.
But all right, just this year, let's look at the evidence. Bros, the first same-sex rom-com ever made in the history of all humanity.
Ever.
Yes. The Holiday Sitter, which is the first gay Hallmark movie this year. Spoiler alert, the romantic drama where one of the gay characters dies. My Policeman, a closeted person from the 50s starring his generation's Gene Kelly. They/Them. We saw that one where you had not just gay characters, but bigender, gender fluid, all this. Strange World, which had a biracial gay teen. Fire Island, which was like the gay Pride and Prejudice. The Inspection, about a gay Marine who's struggling with his family. Those are
The
ones.
Whale. The Whale.
The Whale, which has
Okay.
the gay man who gains
Yep.
weight after his boyfriend dies. I haven't seen it.
Being
But then-
overweight is technically a disability too. So
There you go. So now we have a disabled gay person. Those are just the ones that were almost primarily focused on that. Let's look at the others. Glass Onion with the gay Benoit Blanc. Black
Mhm.
Panther, the gay Dora Milaje. Tar has a lesbian lead character. Nope has a lesbian
I was
supporting
gonna say nope.
character.
Yep.
Nope.
Thor has lesbian Valkyrie and even gay rocks.
Ambulance.
Don't also forget the Woman King, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies,
Oh, I-
Scream, Marry Me,
I don't
Ambulance.
remember this.
Ambulance.
No, I have Ambulance here.
Okay, good.
Doctor Strange has America Chavez's lesbian parents. Lightyear has the lesbian grandparents. Jurassic World Dominion had that bisexual or lesbian
Right, the
pilot.
Pilot. Yep.
Yep.
Ambulance had the gay support at the gay FBI agent.
Yep.
Everything Everywhere All at Once had the daughter's the lesbian in that
Yep.
movie. Downton Abbey, the sequel, has a gay character in there as well. Kind of funny story. When I saw the first Downton Abbey with my mom, she had never seen the show, so she was thoroughly confused by the movie. But when they raid the gay club, and the guys there, all my mom said is, and they were having such a good time. I mean, that was her
Yeah.
only comment. But
By the
those are-
way, Amsterdam, I think that there was also implications that Michael Myers and what's his name, Michael Shannon's character may have had something going on there too.
Maybe-
So
yeah, I mean, well, that's kind of ambiguous. That's already, we're up to like 19 here. That's not counting the television. You had, for some strange reason, you had Dahmer. Our flags means death. White Lotus, A League of Their Own, which had the lesbian baseball players. Willow, now their leads, now the leads are lesbians in that one too. And RuPaul's
It's
Drag
still
Race,
not
which
enough.
is yeah.
It's not enough.
by the way,
oh,
just to answer Spencer, I know we're talking about 2021 releases,
Yeah.
but the report's talking about 2021, but we're just bringing up this year alone. So
yes, this is just this year.
Not enough.
This
I
year.
want-
And then
I
you
want
think
all of the characters to
Moonlight-
be gay. Every
Moonlight wins Best
single
Picture.
one. I want them all to,
But this
to be
is-
a part of the
this is
LGBT.
the problem.
All of them.
We-
You know why? But you know why I want all the characters and all the TV shows and movies to be gay? Because I want them all to fucking fail like that gay rom-com bullshit that no one went
Yeah.
to
But
go see anyway.
it makes
A couple-
it ceases to have the label mean anything. You know, it's
Yeah.
like if everybody's gay, literally, if everybody's gay, then no one is, because it
Well, like-
loses any meaning to what. Yes, everybody is attracted to their own sex or their own gender.
But
yes.
again, and this is
well,
something that I've talked
LGBTQ
about.
plus
I'm sorry.
actually means plus, so you can include straight people in it.
No,
so
it has
tired.
to be gender fluid, bigender, gender nonconforming, two-spirit, asexual. The thing, and I brought this up, and Rob brought it up before I did. there is in terms of population to characters on television and in film, there is a massive overrepresentation. You have 7% that identify 7% overall of American population. The American population identifies as gay, and gay is going to be my catch-all term because I don't want to spill all the letters. And you have what already like 14, 15, 16% of characters, and now they want to push it up to 50% of characters to be a gay. Granted, the gay population is increasing because it went from 4% for Gen Xers like me to like 20% to Zoomers, which I believe Cassie would be. So the gay population is actually going up, which I don't know why. But even if you wanted to have more gay representation, don't tell me that you don't want stereotypes. What was Bros if nothing but stereotypes? There wasn't
Right.
any person there that was close to being realistic. You're not going to have gay characters that are going to be like or like a Spencer Clayman or a Guy Benson who are conservative. You're not going to have like I mean, the most diversity that I've seen was in a movie called Breaking Fast, which was a gay a gay rom-com before Bros, surprisingly enough, and the main character was a devout gay Muslim. So, I mean, this is a man who was a devout Muslim and was keeping Ramadan. That's why he was struggling with sexual desires because he met a guy, but he was openly gay and a devout Muslim. I don't know. It's not for me to say whether the two are plausible, but at least
No.
that's kind.
Not in certain countries.
Well, no, I'm saying in terms of the film, that's what they were saying, and that was actually better than Bros because that one actually had some wit to it. Point being, you can't ask for them not to have stereotypes when you are also demanding that we have things like Bros. That was nothing but stereotypes. It's just amazing to me. I'm amazed that you still want to have more gay representation when there are not that many gay people. It's again a very small percentage of the population.
Well, I got a couple more that you forgot too. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Tar was another one. Strange World, Lightyear.
Mention those.
I mentioned those.
Well, hold on. What was another one? Did you mention Doctor Strange too?
Yes.
Yep.
Did you mention? Oh no one saw that movie. I'm not even gonna bring that one up.
Here, I'll give you the ones I mentioned: Glass Onion, Black Panther, Tar, Nope, Thor: Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange, Lightyear, Jurassic World Dominion, Ambulance, Everything All at Once, Downton Abbey, and those are the ones that just had gay characters. I mean, not the ones that had the major gay plots like Bros. Spoiler alert: My Policeman, They/Them, Strange World, Fire Island, The Inspection, and throw in The Holiday Sitter, which was the same-sex Hallmark Christmas movie. And those are the ones that I could remember. I mean, I haven't seen Bodies. There's probably some others that I've missed for this year. Last year, you had The Eternals, and then you had Moonlight, and you've had, I mean, it's to the point where you wonder, like, are there any straight people left in the world? Is everyone literally gay?
Yeah.
Everyone is gay.
And like I said, it's even worse in comics. Like we've made the joke many times in Marvel and DC that pretty much everyone's gay now, to the point where there's going to be a population collapse because everyone's gay and no one's going to reproduce.
No, because the gay population has been increasing, Jacob. I mean, it's gone from 4% in my generation to 20% in Cassie's generation. All right, so let's look at it that way. There is now a larger gay population than there was.
No. I don't mean the gay population is going to collapse. I mean the overall population is going to collapse because no one's going to be reproducing and making babies.
I may for a moment.
We'll have robots.
I got something to say too, but let Orange Hat go first.
Go ahead.
I think that Hollywood and GLAAD are honestly completely ignorant of Hollywood and movie history because they continue to say, oh, we've been underrepresented for all these years and yada, yada, yada. They've had LGBTQ representation in film since 1916. And I have said this on numerous streams and numerous videos on my channel. If these idiots would just look up what is the first LGBTQ themed movie? It's called Vingarn. Vingarne. And if they would do any sort of research, they would realize that their entire pitch and argument is null and void. Also, if anybody with half a brain reached out and to GLAAD and say, well, or when GLAAD tells them you need to have this much more representation, otherwise we're going to penalize you or we're going to give you a bad report, I'd look at them straight in the face and I'd say, ooh, I'm afraid of a little bad report. Bitch, you don't get to dictate how we run our business. You are an outside factor. Just because you don't like how we do things doesn't mean we're going to change how we do things. If we want a movie where we have an LGBTQ character, so be it. We will have that. But you do not get to demand that and say, well, we're lesser because we didn't indulge in your twisted fantasies. I'm sorry, but that's the way the real world works. And I think that Hollywood and all these studios need to have a little bit more spine, because honestly, if they don't, they deserve to rot in hell.
Well, let me ask this before I let Nerdigans go. Like, I think a lot of people are still under the impression that, you know, that Hollywood isn't somewhat completely complicit in this agenda as well. As if what GLAAD's trying to do is like, oh, we're only just trying to increase representation, like for the masses. Like, are you really doing that, or are you trying to basically create propaganda to further your cause and further your agenda? Like, what is it really?
It's very simple. What they're doing is the same as the fourth wave feminists. They're not seeking equality, they're seeking superiority. They say we want realistic representation at first. Well, okay, 7%. You've been having that representation for a while.
Yep.
But now they have 21%. Well, it's still not enough. And I guarantee you, if they actually do get up to 50% at all, and anywhere, they're going, which they're shooting for, they're gonna still say it's not enough.
Nerdigans, go.
Okay, so here's the thing that's been bugging me. So first off, I have not watched any of those movies. I know I watch, like, I have my guilty pleasures, okay? I watched my Drag Race, I watched my Dragula, which is actually better than Drag Race, because I like art. It's an art form. You can say all the stuff you want about grooming and all that. That's the parents' fault. They take them to these shows. Call CPS on the parents. But here's my thing, and this is what's been pissing me off about GLAAD. What they're doing is causing these crazy psycho activists, and I notice it's mainly Zoomers doing this. They are going after the anime community. They're going after the video game community. They are going after Otokonoko and feminine male characters specifically more than the tomboy characters, and they are trying to trans them. And it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of feminine men on Twitter get really annoyed because they're saying that being a trap, being a femboy is being called a fetish now by these people. So you can't identify as a trap anymore because now it's a slur. They're trying to make femboy a slur.
Good luck with that. There's a lot of interest. That's all.
Like, so they're all about gender identity and shit, and at the same time, it's like you're saying that their identity is a fetish, but you can't. You're all about like sexual freedom and non-kink shame, but you're telling them it can't be a trap.
Let's be honest, they're all about societal destruction at this point, and we've talked about this many times on the show. It's like, yeah, you can't just be a tomboy who's like 10 years old and like wearing overalls and t-shirts and shit like that. You just can't be like a normal kid. No, you have to be a trans man now because you're showing tendencies of trans people. It's like they'll find something, they'll home in on it, and then they'll wish it into existence existence. I mean, we talked about the whole Velma thing. People are trying to been betraying like, oh, Velma's always been a lesbian. It's like, no, you guys have wished her into a lesbian over the last couple of decades. I'm pretty sure when they created a Scooby-Doo in the 1960s, it was like, oh, Velma, she's definitely going to be our lesbian character for the future. It's like, no, that didn't fucking happen until you weirdos came and started taking this shit over. Like I said, they're corrupting society to a point where morality no longer exists, and that's what they're going for. And if you guys think that it's bad now, I can tell you this: in 2023, specifically this next coming year, there's a lot of LGBTQ content that you're going to be seeing all over your TV, movies, and streaming, and they're all going to be garnered towards kids, because Sarah K. Ellis made a comment earlier this year about strengthening their resolve in the children's programming market. So you're going to start seeing a lot of sus shit coming out of Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, all of these things that are traditionally family-friendly programs. You're going to start seeing a lot more of that stuff pushed towards kids in 2023. Like, it's going to start getting ugly, because these people are not slowing down, like, at all. It is only going to get even worse. And like I said, the few studios, like what they say, Lionsgate and Paramount, which they gave the failing grade to, that I guess you can make the argument maybe they're holding out, they're going to fold sooner rather than later. And it's not going to stop from here, and nobody in Hollywood is going to tell GLAAD to fuck off, because they're all on the same side. So this is going to be.
I've been saying that for a while, that's what they're going to do. But hey, I was too small of a YouTube channel to really get my message out there at the time.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, though, because they're already starting to come after Giselle, who is a feminine male, and Kubo's already said it multiple times.
Yeah.
They're already starting to come after Giselle and the Bleach fandom. If you've ever been around the Bleach fandom, they are toxic as hell, and they will fuck you up. And it's already happening. And these Zoomers have no idea what's coming for them.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the Cowboy Bebop, when they were trying to change Ed to be a non-binary character, even though it's specifically stated that she's a girl. They've said it many times before. Even the one character, I think his name's Lynn or whatever the case was, they actually did change the sexuality in the show, which is like, you guys keep trying to force this. People tell you that they don't.
A lot of the LGBT Cowboy Bebop fans, they hated that shit.
Yeah.
But no, the Cowboy Bebop fandom has got nothing on the Bleach fandom for what they're going to do.
They better hold strong. Like I said, these people will not stop. And what did Reese say in the Terminator? You can't bargain them, you can't reason with them. They will not stop until you are dead.
You basically just described the big three fandom: the One Piece fans, the Naruto fans, and the Bleach fans. You cannot reason with them at all. Mm-hmm. And trust me, they have infiltrated They have tried to infiltrate the One Piece fandom and tried to trans Yamato.
Yeah.
Nope, they don't. The One Piece fans do not tolerate it.
These people are stupid. They have to. Do they not realize that One Piece fans have been waiting for a conclusion to this fucking series for like since I've been fucking alive? You think that? You think that assholes that are trying to infiltrate are going to come in and try and fuck that up? No, it's not going to happen. Do not fuck with One Piece fans. Jeez.
Exactly.
All I have to say is hold the line.
They're still fucking with Persona fans and trying to make one of the characters trans. It pisses them off, the fandom off, all the time, and they go in on them every time.
You know, even among the LGBT whatever community in the 90s, people that literally said this, you know, I'm really a man, I'm really a woman, were made fun of. Like even in the community, they were kind of made fun of. Like I heard this all the time, where it was like it was never taken seriously, and now. For whatever reason, whatever
that's
reason,
because back then it was LGB
right. But
community.
You have a widespread corporate acceptance of some kind of ideology that's being pushed now on all of society, and it's like, okay, what the fuck is with that? When I was in high school and got called gay F slur constantly, and now there's this mass acceptance of all things gay and LGBTQ, it's like. What the fuck happened? What happened? Sorry,
well,
I'm freaking out a little bit, but it's like I remember those days. I remember what people are actually like. So I don't think people have gotten kinder.
And not only that, but like I said, there's definitely a rot in our society right now, because there was a video that I think I may have sent to you guys earlier about an incident here in Atlanta where the cops show up to a shooting, and like a bunch of it's Atlanta, so I know it's mostly black, and there was a white cop there. They literally surrounded the white cop and forced him to like leave the scene, because apparently they didn't want a white cop to investigate the crime scene where somebody else was shot and killed. It had to be quote unquote one of their own. And if you look at the Twitter thread, you basically have a bunch of black Twitter arguing for segregation. So we've come so far around the loop now that here we're at levels of 1960s racism where we're arguing for segregation to come back now. Like back in the 1960s, we were saying no, segregation is wrong, everyone needs to be equal. Now we've warped people's brains so far we're like, no, we need to bring it back because we're actually safer amongst our own than we are with white people. This is the way these people believe, and it's like this is what we have to deal with now in 2022, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon.
Look up critical race theory. That's what critical race theory wants. You will see.
Yeah. Oh, critical race theory is just extremely racist. So
it is. It's very racist. This is exactly what critical race theory wants to achieve, is to reverse the Civil Rights Act. That's what it wants. So I'm telling you, go read it. I read it I read about it, I think, when it started getting really big, maybe a year or 2 years ago. Oh my God. It's
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think the woke stuff, woke just means that I'm better than you and I deserve special treatment. And that's kind of like the shorthand for it. But it doesn't matter if you're like black or white or, Hispanic or Canadian or anything, like gay, straights, two-spirited. I don't know. I think they just want an excuse to kind of push.
I still need someone to explain to me what the fuck two-spirited actually means. Like, what the fuck is that? Like,
I just chalk that up.
It's a Native American. It's a Native American situation, where they believe they have it's a weird type of cultural.
If you're Native American, do you need any more victim points at this point? It's like, honestly,
Native Americans get treated like shit still.
It's like you already took the Redskins from us. We lost the Indians. What more do you want at this point?
It's like, that was white people that were fighting on behalf of them. They didn't give a shit. Native Americans don't want that shit. They don't give a shit about that. They just want their life to be better. They're tired of people fighting.
They don't even pay taxes, so what the fuck are they complaining about?
All I know is that if you try to change the Braves name, there's going to be riots.
Go on a Native American reservation, you will see how bad it is. And also, Elizabeth Warren took advantage of their asses.
Reservations several times a year or so.
Yeah, and
I've seen how bad they are. Guess what? Some of them up here, they ain't complaining. It looks ramshackled. Some of them, yes, in certain areas, it does look pretty bad. But they aren't complaining at all.
As soon as we get that one-legged lesbian deaf.
Oh, Echo.
Yeah. As soon as we get that, then we'll have more representation then, because if she's a lesbian, that's what we need. We need a one-legged lesbian. Native American.
I like how I'm unironically getting everyone excited to watch Echo just for that reason, because like how many victim points can you put into one show at this point? So
that's how American.
You haven't excited me. Sorry, Bob.
There is no.
Didn't even feel a twitch.
There's no reason to believe that the gay community is underrepresented. I think maybe they think they're underrepresented. My theory is that perhaps because everyone that they know is gay or identifies as such, or they know someone who knows someone, and I do. I mean, I think
maybe in the LA bubble, in the LA, New York City, Austin, Texas bubble, it's a higher population of gay people in those areas where most of these people hang out. That's possible, but that ain't the majority of the country.
It's possible because I have one of my best friends is gay. I have gay relatives, but by and large, you don't really have a lot of gay representation in other fields. I mean, we have one openly gay football player. We have maybe one openly. I don't think like baseball. Maybe one openly. I don't think they've all retired.
Look, you guys got Brittany Griner back. What more do you want? Like, how much do we have? I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
Well, now
I
they're going
heard
to have to watch the
her
WNBA
reception
thing. Don't be
and
quiet.
celebration of coming home didn't go so well for her.
Because no one cared. No, let's be honest, no one cared about Brittany Griner even before she got kidnapped by Russia. So it's like
That is very
no one
true.
cares.
But
I bet you they were more worried about having to pay her while she was in
Are
prison.
you kidding? Everybody wanted her to stay over there.
oh
Yeah.
Oh boy.
but really, there's no GLAAD has no real case here in terms of saying that that there's not enough gay representation. There is plenty. There in terms of population, again, there is an overrepresentation. There are probably more there are more Hispanics than there are gays in America. But you don't see people going on GLAAD is not saying we need more more Hispanic representation unless they identify as Latinx, a term that I hate, and again, unless the character is gay. And we've had gay Hispanics on television, like Oscar in The Office, or that kid from Ugly Betty. It's like it just seems to be almost a running gag that if your character is Hispanic, then he'll turn out to be the gay character on your show. Again, that's there's going to be more. There's going to be more gay representation coming up. But you look at the films that have been made. I mean, you can't really judge The Holiday Sitter, but Bros flopped. Spoiler alert, flop. My Policeman, I don't think did well. They Damn, Who's Watching That? Strange World was one of the biggest.
Lightyear.
Lightyear, Fire Island, The Inspection. All of those films did not do well because they are going to play to a niche audience, specifically Bros. And I said this when we did our Bros review. It's a niche film. No matter how much Billy Eichner insists, oh, well, this is film for everyone and you should watch it or you're a homophobe. No, it's not, because no, men don't like romantic comedies, period. And women, I think, for the most part, would like to see romantic comedies where it's someone that they can identify with. They're not going to identify with Billy Eichner. They're not going to identify with Luke McFarlane. That's why they watch the Hallmark movies, because they can identify with the woman, I assume. And I don't know how well The Holiday Sitter did. I have it on my DVR. But when I went to see, spoiler alert, I think most of the people there were gay, and I was there just taking my notes because I wanted to see what I always joke was the dramatic version of Bros. There wasn't there wasn't an orgy, but there was one scene that was kind of like that. Point being,
Shocker.
no, there's no underrepresentation. There is no underrepresentation. Eventually, we're going to. I mean, maybe we'll have the next Lincoln biopic. Have him, have Abraham Lincoln having an affair with a man, because that's where we're headed. We need more gay characters.
I don't even think it matters. I don't even think it matters to them that they have all this representation. They just want more, and that's the nature of power. And they don't have a lot of children, most of them, I think. So this is kind of like what they do.
I'm not sure
they need to have that power taken back from them.
You put your energy into a job, and this is their job. And I mean, like, I have other jobs to do. So, but I have to say, Jacob, I laughed at that list that you pulled up because it's like half of those things don't even apply. Half of those things don't even apply to, like, women or
no,
even in movies and stuff. It's like I just kind of laugh. It's like those are all things that, like, all good movies should have and all good characters should have. But like,
I would say this:
movies for like straight people. So
I will say this, and this is how we're gonna wrap things up here. When I heard about these tests that movies have to pass in order to be approved by, like, the woke crowd. Remember the movie was it Major League? Remember when at the very, like, beginning, like, of the movie, when the players can't remember his name, when he comes up with, like, his list and demands that is in his contract, and then the skipper takes the contract, rips it up, puts it on the ground, pisses on it. That should have been the reaction of a lot of these things that are coming out about, oh, you have to pass this test and make sure that this character fits this certain. You're like, fuck off, just fuck off. But like I said, these people won't do it, so we're gonna be stuck with this for a while, unfortunately. So hopefully, movies get better. This is why I watch more South Korean stuff, because they actually do focus on, like, characters and stories, unlike here in the United States, where it's like, no, we have to fit all these dumbass quotas. So
equity, man.
The end is near, but the end is definitely near for us because this is the end of the show. So
Yay. Rick got his avatar up.
Oh, finally! Yeah, it took him.
Yay.
It literally took him like 90
Oh
minutes to
my
figure out how
God.
to upload a JPEG to his to his face.
Well, the problem was that I was getting distracted. I was trying to listen and trying to do this, and I ultimately could not. So I knew as we were coming up to the
Boomer.
end. Yeah,
Multitask.
I can't
Exactly.
multitask. I
Don't
can't
you work at a
multitask.
library where you have to use a computer?
Yes,
Okay.
but
Just
I
like that.
still want the card catalog. All right, I want the card catalog
You have
back.
to
I
understand
want
the
the card
computers.
catalog just to make students frustrated and appreciate the computer more.
I
You
still
have to
put things like
understand that the
uh,
computers that
author
Rick
title,
uses.
and subject. I still remember. And moreover, just so you can know, Cassie, I have an electric typewriter. I still have it, and I have a word processor. I have not gotten rid of those. But if it's any comfort, no, I don't turn my car. I don't go to the front and crank it to start it.
Oh my God, Rick uses the computers at his library that have the black screens and the green writing.
That's the city budget. That's not us.
Well, let's go ahead and give everyone a chance to promote your stuff you got coming up. I know our good buddy Orange Hat has some things coming up on his channel. Promote the channel. What you got coming up, man?
Well, I got my final mystery review for next week coming up. The hints are Christmas with terrorists. It's pretty much obvious at this point what it's going to be. I mean, I've done all non-traditional Christmas films. I mean, earlier today I did Gremlins. I also do, or that's going to be Tuesday morning at 10:30 a.m. I also have guest choice reviews that I do. If you want to come on, you can choose a movie. I will be getting those coming, or I'll probably have those starting back up in January, unless anybody wants to do another one before then. I'm expanding my channel a little bit by reviewing games or video games that I have played or have seen, franchises that I really like Metal Gear Solid, God of War, and such.
Yeah.
I'm still covering controversy in Hollywood, like the shit that we've been talking about tonight. Not as in depth, but in smaller videos and whatnot. And yeah, that's about me. And thanks so much for having me on, man.
All right. Moving on to, I guess, the person who finally figured out how his internet and computer works, Mr. Rick Aragon. What do you got coming up, my friend?
Well, first, real quick, thank you to C.S. Johnson for making this lovely and completely accurate portrayal of my life.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
And-
for indulging me in using it. I love being able to tease people. It's a love language for me. So
well, there you go. Yes. So what I've got coming up, I'm going to work on the various reviews that I have for the films that I've seen. Like spoiler alert, and I talked about it yesterday. An Enemy of the People, which was a rare Steve McQueen non-action film, and we've also got Babylon coming up. I'm going to publish. I'm almost finished with my Christmas review. I review a Christmas themed movie every year for the 25th, and this year it's going to be Santa Claus, the Mexican Santa Claus movie that was dubbed into English and is best known for Mystery Science Theater 3000. And then I'm also just getting for Christmas, trying to get through this week, trying to clean my house, and that's pretty much it. And yeah, I'm just gonna start using this more often. This is actually quite enjoyable here. Oh, but I will be on camera real quick to plug this nice bit of swag that I got to promote White Noise. I mean, they sent this to me. I will be donating it because I don't, I would wear it if it just had the AMP, but just real quick here, I don't know if you guys can see it. It has this whole or spiel about Adam Driver, directed by Noah Baumbach,
Yeah.
and all that brouhaha. And I'm going, I don't want to wear that any more than I want to wear a glass onion cap that's like a Ryan Johnson whodunit. I'm too embarrassed. So that's all going to not the Goodwill, the Candlelighters, charity that I do support. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. And I'm getting better at the buttons here. So, all right, let's
Yeah,
move on.
you should make that your new Twitter avatar too. Just throwing that out there. So
What's wrong with the one I have now? That's me with Scotty from the Sandlot.
yeah. Anyway, Johnson, what you got coming up?
Hey. Hey everybody, so subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't. Which thank you, Jacob, for putting it in the little chat bar thingy. And also, I'm a writer. I don't know if you can tell because most of my problems are about writing. And but I put my my link in the chat too for Amazon. I have a lot of free books. I've been trying to encourage people and be nice to people who are suffering under inflation. So please buy my ebooks if you like them, buy the audio, buy the paperbacks. Those I can't really control prices on as much. So but subscribe to my channel, get some audiobooks on there for free too. And I I'm not woke. I write stuff
Really?
character
What?
driven. Yeah, I know. Nope. I write complicated, meaningful, fun, and thought-provoking stuff. I have a background in literary work, but I like fantasy and romance and history. And some of my stuff is very niche too. And I actually include LGBTQ characters, but you wouldn't know it because it's not like a headliner on there. But you'd never guess some of them. So, because it's just not part of the main part of the story. So, how's that for like decently woke? Huh. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. If you want to read about mermaid genocide and you want to read about Mission Impossible in Prague in the 1800s,
Mermaid genocide, isn't that just Avatar?
No, so it's my Till Human Voices Wake Us series. And yeah, mermaid genocide is a big part of it.
All right, we'll have to check that one out. All right, I'm gonna go to Mr. PlayStation Hat over here. Cassie.
Mr. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, I'm head of the table, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, calm down, Roman.
But yeah, you can find me over on my YouTube channel, Cult Classic Cage. We're actually going to do a watch-along commentary for Home Alone because that's one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I would like to share it with the people that
my kids and I watched that yesterday.
Yeah, I'm head of the table, so it'd be
She
cool
wants
to
to
have a
share
watch.
it with the people.
Yeah, it'd be fun. This is the first watch along I'm doing, so hoping it goes well and hoping it's a fun time to hang out with everyone. And yeah, if you want, I just made a video where the title is essentially calling David Jaffe a cunt. He's a person that used to have importance in the gaming industry, and that's no longer the case. And he's trying to essentially go from game developer to YouTuber, and it's been a abysmal failure the entire time. And so yeah, he just acts like an idiot, and I got kind of annoyed by him, I guess, a little bit, maybe a little tiny bit triggered, because when people don't acknowledge that being obese is bad for one's health, it makes me angry. So yeah, you can always check that out if you'd like.
Definitely agree. And then moving over to California, Nerdigans.
It's been insane because over the past weekend we had Jump Festa, and there's so many new anime coming out that I get to tear apart because some of it looks really, really bad. So I'm going to be doing that both for Bounding and on my channel. So that's going to be fun. I just finished up a couple of manga lists for like new series and for moments of 2022. I actually have an interview that I am working on getting set up with one of the mangaka of the series that I put in my top 10 new series list. So that's really, really awesome for me. I love when this happens. But anyways, check out all my content on Nerdigans Inc. on YouTube. We cover everything from in terms of manga and anime, and especially stuff in terms of manga that's extremely obscure that no one else really covers. But anyways, I almost forgot. I should have said this last week. We hit over 8,000 subscribers recently. So that's
huge.
That's a great way to end 2022 is with over 8,000 subs. It'd be nice if it was higher. Are we? No, you're doing Charm tomorrow for Retro Rewind. I did not.
Yeah, no, actually, we're not doing that one tomorrow. I'm going to move that one back because I got to retool a couple of things. So.
Okay, so I'll be. You're doing a stream next week, so I'll be here next week. So.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
All right.
And a man who will not be here next week is.
Yeah, Roberto's leaving us. He says that he's had enough. He's going to be done. He's giving up his crown to Cassie for the following week because he's got to go home to the folks. So, yeah, anything else? Are you going to at least be like live tweeting next week?
Yeah, probably. I'll probably be watching movies and talking about them. But yeah, I got like Christmas in Connecticut, a bunch of older Christmas movies I haven't seen. Just because it's the season and why the hell not. And then in January, I'm starting on a John Woo kind of filmography, but that's for January. So, I mean, I might be back next week, but I'm probably not. So, sorry for that tease. I did want to say to Rick wearing that Noah Baumbach A&P sweater, I really wish he would have put that much effort into his movie. You know, since he was Angelillo and a pretty well-known novel. But
they sent me the screener, but I have not seen it, so I cannot comment. But I wanted to wear this once because I've never been to an AMP. I've heard of them.
Do they still exist? Because I know they used to be in the Northeast.
They don't. They never had one here in El Paso. I did find a couple of Piggly Wigglies, and I got excited when I saw them.
Oh my!
Yes, one in Charleston and one in Wisconsin.
Old grocery stores I just trace with TV shows, like A&P was referenced in Mad Men, which is in the northeastern area, New York City in the 60s, and then Piggly Wiggly, that's referenced in Boardwalk Empire, and that takes place in the 20s. So there you go.
I remember
we had an A&P up in my area.
There you go.
I remember the Piggly Wiggly from Driving Miss Daisy. So
there you go.
All right then, and then I'll switch it over to me, let you guys know what we got coming up. I mean, there's not going to be a retro wave this week because I got a lot to catch up on. I got 4 more movies left to watch on the year, and I'm probably behind at least 4 or 5 movies on reviews, including the 4 that's not through. So I probably have to do like 9 or 10 reviews before the year is up, and we only have like 11 days left. So I'm gonna be doing a lot of content on the site. Obviously, I'll have videos up on here as well. So all of my stuff's gonna be written on SideTheReviews.com. So check me out over there. I'm gonna have a couple other things up there before the end of the night. New content. Till then, this coming Monday is going to be the final movie review of the year. Is going to be Babylon. We'll be talking about Babylon. Myself, Rick, obviously Rob won't be there, but I'm working on having a couple other people join us on Monday, so we may have interesting discussion there for our last movie of the year. And then next week we'll be back here on the Barroom Podcast, episode number 30, which is kind of ironic that we'll be hitting 30 on our very last show of the year, but that's what's going to happen. And then in 2 weeks, January the 2nd, we got a big best and worst of the year as far as movies go. We're going to do our best and worst movies of 2022. Myself, Rob, Rick, Christian Toto, Sarah Hart is going to be on the show. Chris Swan is also going to be on the show as well. So got a big show planned in a couple of weeks, but we got a lot of work to do before we get to there. So just follow me here. I'll give you guys updates and everything that we have going on. Until then, thanks everyone who joined us in the chat. So many people now that I have to kind of remember everyone. Alex vs. Evil, Neo, Duke Nukem, who are always our regulars here, joining us tonight. I know Codenomics was here for a bit, so thank him for joining us. Trey was here. Dre was here a little bit on the show here. We have God Loves Bible and Truth, who was here in the show with us here tonight. We have DK, who's always joining us here on the show. Spencer, obviously. Josh wasn't here. I guess, we're too good for Josh. Josh now, so we're just gonna throw him out the way. And yeah, JEC, anyone else who joined us, Hustle and Motive was here, Oz was here for a little bit. Everyone who joined us tonight, thank you for joining. Hopefully you'll see us back here next week for episode 30, but we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up and say goodbye to all you people. So until then, we will see you next week. I look forward to more content on the site, and like I said, I got a lot more reviews coming up over the next few days as well. So we'll be busy. We'll see you next week. Adios. Bye-bye.